Hi, so before this video begins, I would like to come here and talk about the strike that's currently happening in Hollywood. If you didn't know, writers and actors are currently on strike for better pay, for not being replaced by AI. It's basically people are not being treated like their work matters, and they really should be. I want to be very clear that I really strongly support these people who are on strike. Throughout this video, I discuss 42 movies that were produced by Mainframe Studios, which is an animation production company based out of Canada. But they definitely did work with companies such as Universal and Lionsgate for distribution. I want to be very clear that in this video I'm strictly reviewing, and any praise that is made towards any of these movies is towards the people who created it. It's towards the writers, the directors, the animators, and everyone who made these pieces of art into something. I want to do my best to support the actors and writers who are on strike, and so in the description below you can find all sorts of resources and information regarding the strike and ways that you can support them. This is not an endeavor that I was paid to do or that I really even can make any money on. That's just not the state my channel is in. So I want to be very clear that this is not in any way sponsored or affiliated with anything. I took a year and made this by myself. So with that, enjoy the video. When I was a kid, I watched an interesting variety of content. Namely, whatever we could get on DVD or VHS from Blockbuster, the library, Netflix DVD, etc. The details of why I had such an eclectic viewing as a kid is not important here, but there is something my mom would always contend. Disney movies, the princess ones specifically, teach women that they need a man, and the Barbie movies teach girls autonomy. So naturally, it took me to the age of 21 to see all the Disney princess movies, and I was raised a Barbie girl. Well, for the most part, I didn't really like Barbie dolls because they weren't edgy enough for 7-year-old me, but that's a different story for another time. When thinking back to these films from my childhood, there's nothing that groundbreaking in terms of how they're presented. Barbie usually ends up with a guy at the end, she overcomes evil by being a girl boss, and there's usually some wholesome message about being yourself or being brave or something. And they managed to sell a lot of dolls in pretty dresses, which was definitely Mattel's reasoning for making these movies. But in the summer of 2022, I rewatched a couple of these on a whim, and it sparked a deep interest in me to figure out what made these movies so special. I noticed something interesting. The male characters really aren't important in these movies. They're typically the love interest or the side buddy character, or in other words, they're peripheral roles. Sometimes the male character is the villain, but even then they aren't as fully fleshed out as their female counterparts. The male characters don't always have names, they don't always interact with each other, if there even is another male character, and if they do interact, they're probably talking about Barbie. There's also something interesting about the relationships that Barbie has within these movies. Those between the female leads are typically complex and really the centerpiece of the film, with friendship and dedication being important above all else. I can't think of really any massively successful franchises that weigh female friendships in this way. Meanwhile, Barbie's relationship with the male character is typically pretty shallow, as if there really isn't much beyond the princess just needing to end up with the prince. And the relationship between two male characters is pretty non-existent for most of the films. There are so many Barbie movies. Before I started this project, I figured there's between 20 and 30 films, but there are 42 currently, starting in 2001 and continuing up to just a couple months ago. There's been over 20 years of movies, which is 20 years of influence onto young children. There will probably be no better time for me to embark on this mission when Barbie is just so relevant. The brand hit a peak in 2021, and I would wager it's going to hit another peak this year. And I've grown really interested to see what the BCU was up to while I was growing up. So my friend Julia and I set out to watch every single installment in the Barbie cinematic universe. And it took almost a year. Once we decided to watch all these movies, I knew I wanted to keep track of something interesting throughout all of them. Thinking back to the lackluster portrayal of male characters in these movies, I decided it'd be interesting to see how gender is portrayed. So I settled on a few questions. Do the Barbie movies pass the Bechdel test, and do they pass the reverse? Are the male characters treated as periphery? Is this a gender role reversal? Let's try to answer some of these questions in this adventure's side task, Barbie in a reverse Bechdel test. So first up, let's establish what the Bechdel test even is. The Bechdel test was created in a comic strip by Alice Bechdel and quickly became a staple in media theory. It's basically a low bar for films to reach and involves having two named female characters talk to each other for a conversation about anything other than a man. The conversation doesn't have to be long, it just has to happen. You'd think this would be easy for most movies, but it's not. From a media studies standpoint, I don't think this is a useful tool, really. It's not useful in determining whether a film is good or bad, and it's also not really useful in determining if women are portrayed well. For example, hit film Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle passes the Bechdel test. There are two named sisters in a bathroom talking about battle shits while they use the bathroom. But the movie also had Neil Patrick Harris with a bunch of shirtless women in a limo. So, I don't know, I guess you be the judge. The Bechdel test isn't a good barometer in deciding if women are fully portrayed in a movie. It wasn't supposed to be, and the fact that it became such a big deal is kind of surprising. And then the decision over whether a movie passes or fail is highly contestable. Take Blade Runner 2049, which has a plethora of female characters. But the results are highly contended because people can't decide on what constitutes a conversation about a man. If tiny minutia is what's keeping it between a pass and a fail, what's the point in the first place? It's just a way to take quick stock as to whether the filmmaker was careful with the portrayal of women, but it isn't the most quantitative, and it's really not qualitative at all. And of course, not every movie needs to pass it to be good. Like, I love the movie Point Break, but I don't think it passes the Bechdel test. I can only name one female character in the whole movie, and it was directed by a woman! Regarding the Barbie movies, all of them pass the Bechdel test easy. In fact, it's usually the first conversation in the movie that makes it pass. Barbie Movies Trivia on Tumblr compiled the time that the first conversation that passes happens for each film, and found the average across them. They found the first Bechdel passing conversation happens between 3 and 3.5 minutes into the film. And this depends on whether you include Starlight Adventure, which is a movie in which Barbie spends the first bit of the movie with her dad only, so she doesn't meet a female character for a while. Clearly, it's not contested as to whether Barbie passes the Bechdel test. It's pretty clear from the start of these movies that women are centered. But the question is, do these films pass the reverse of the Bechdel test? This would involve having two named male characters talk to each other about something other than Barbie, or another female character. To begin to answer this question, I had to kind of decide what my test would look like beforehand, so I can't really, manipulate it. Firstly, the character has to be named. We're not going to take fairy number 3, or prince number 2, or dad. He needs to have a proper name. Secondly, he needs to talk. I kind of went back and forth on this, but a seal making squawking noises or Bibble talking in Bibble speak doesn't quite equate to a conversation. This is an issue because oftentimes the characters in the movies are animals. So I'm only going to accept it if the characters are named and they're speaking the same language. The line's inconsistent in Barbie as to whether the humans can understand the animals, so this needs to be clear. I don't think this will be an issue, but I just want to have it taken care of. And of course, these two male characters need to talk about something that isn't Barbie, or the Queen, or their mom, or some other woman. And as you'll see, this is where the test gets a little bit murky, because it can be hard to decide what a conversation means. I mostly consider it that two characters at least exchange one full sentence with each other, but even that can start to get a little difficult. But what we will know for sure is if it passes with flying colors, the men talk a lot, or it fails miserably, the men don't talk. I had thought about taking a more analytic approach with this and delving deep into media theory, but I just finished college. I just wrote 2 theory-heavy theses about YouTube, and I want to have fun. I need a break. With my reverse Bechdel test lined out, the next thing I needed to do was prepare my list of movies to watch. The last Barbie movie that I remember coming out was Barbie and a Mermaid Tale, which came out in 2010. So that was over a decade ago. While I did watch every single movie released under the Barbie brand, I will be excluding a few from this video. I'm excluding Barbie and the Rockers because I don't see it as actually part of the Barbie cinematic universe. They came out in the 80s, and to call them movies I think is a bit generous because they're kind of just big long music videos that are trying to market Barbie like Gem and the Holograms marketed their dolls. I also watched 2 Barbie Dreamtopia movies, but I think those clearly are not part of this entire ordeal. They're clearly intended for a very young audience, and they tie in with the Dreamtopia series, which I actually knew nothing about. This video will begin with Barbie and the Nutcracker and end with Barbie, Skipper, and the Big Babysitting Adventure. So with a combination of home DVD, Netflix, and perfectly legal websites, I set out to watch every Barbie movie ever made, see how fully the male characters are portrayed, and place them into a giant ranking. How hard could it be? Well, a bit more difficult than I originally anticipated. It took a really long time and a lot more effort than I expected to write about these in an interesting way. At least I hope it's interesting, please. I've worked so hard on this. Also, logistically, it was really difficult to keep track of everything. I'm a one-person team, and while I did watch these with Julia, and it wouldn't have gotten done without her, I was doing the writing and all of the logistical things on my own, and it was difficult. It would have been so much easier if while I was watching the movies, I wrote about them in detail, but I didn't do that. I kept this little Barbie journal where I kind of just wrote like a 2-sentence review. So that wasn't really helpful. So I had to rely on that notebook, my Letterboxd reviews, and the Barbie wiki. So if you want to hear about every single Barbie movie in the Barbie cinematic universe and my reaction to them, strap in, because here we go, baby! Number 1, Barbie in the Nutcracker. Barbie stars as Clara in Barbie in the Nutcracker, where she is gifted a wooden nutcracker from her favorite Aunt Drosselmeyer. When she goes to sleep, she's awoken to find her nutcracker in battle with the Mouse King, and she's suddenly shrunken down to mouse size. Oh, and also the Mouse King is played by the Tim Curry? Off starts an adventure where she travels into a new world, Parthenia, to find the Sugar Plum Princess and save the world. It's revealed that the Nutcracker is actually the rightful leader of Parthenia, Prince Eric, who mysteriously disappeared because he wasn't ready to be a leader. They meet a lot of friends along the way, and it's revealed in the last moment, when so many people have been turned to stone and the mouse almost wins, that Clara is the Sugar Plum Princess, and she's able to save everyone. She kisses the Nutcracker and he turns back into Prince Eric. Clara wakes up from her dream, but the Nutcracker is gone. That is, until her aunt comes in with a friend named Eric, who gifts her a locket. And then they dance. This film has many dance sequences within it, and it's clear that Mattel wanted to put their best foot forward with this film. As the official film description states, the tale is enhanced with spectacular dance scenes created by the acclaimed choreographer Peter Martins, and features the beloved music of Tchaikovsky. The real-life movements of dancers from the New York City Ballet bring the beauty of ballet to the screen in a way never seen before. The dance in this is really, really impressive and absolutely gorgeous even 20 years later. The story is so engaging and fun, and because I probably saw it like 100 times as a kid, I actually can't tell you what the difference between the actual Nutcracker story and the Barbie Nutcracker story is. I know for a fact that it divulges. Obviously, there isn't a giant rock monster in the original ballet, but we can't be so sure. The plot in this one is also incredibly complicated, and I abridged it pretty significantly here because I didn't want to be here forever. In terms of my test, this is a definite reverse Bechdel test pass. There are just too many male characters in this movie. Barbie in the Nutcracker is really good, and I don't think it's just my nostalgia carrying it through. Mattel started off with a bang, and they left pretty big shoes to fill. But oh, how they filled them. Number 2, Barbie as Rapunzel. This starts with Barbie telling her little sister Kelly how she needs to have confidence in herself, which leads to a story about Rapunzel, a girl with beautiful long hair that is a servant to Mother Gothel, living isolated in the woods. Also, Mother Gothel is voiced by Angelica Houston. Rapunzel has 2 friends, a dragon named Penelope and a rabbit named Hobie, and all that Rapunzel wants is to make paintings and explore the beauties of the world. Both things that Mother Gothel does not want Rapunzel doing. One day, Penelope finds a secret staircase, and Rapunzel begins to suspect that Gothel lied about her parents dying when she was young. She finds a tunnel by the staircase, and she begins exploring a nearby kingdom, where she saves a young princess and meets a handsome prince. Gothel hates this, and destroys her paintings, and expands her tower to giant, essentially imprisoning her. Except, her hairbrush turns into a paintbrush that has the magical ability to create paintings that she can literally walk through to new places. She escapes and sees the prince again, him inviting her to a masquerade ball. She paints herself a new gown and tries to sneak out, but Gothel finds her. She cuts Rapunzel's hair, breaks the paintbrush, then uses the long hair as a wig and attends the ball in order to attempt to destroy the king who she apparently was friend-zoned by. I respect women's wrongs. Some action ensues, and Rapunzel ends up trapping Gothel in a prison of her own making. Rapunzel is reunited with her biological parents and ends up uniting 2 kingdoms that were warring. Did I forget to mention that there were 2 kingdoms and they were warring over the disappearance of a baby that just so happened to be Rapunzel? This movie ends with Barbie finishing the story and Kelly feeling confident in herself. Barbie as Rapunzel has all of the classic Barbie charm. The story is complex, which I like about pretty much all of the early Barbie films, but the animals are a little bit annoying. But there is an interesting subplot about Penelope the dragon and her father and how he puts a lot of pressure on her to just be her best. There are a lot of men in this movie, and they do indeed talk to each other about things other than Barbie. I also firmly believe that this movie is the reason that Tangled exists. And you know what? Disney owes an apology. There's also something I should state here. I really like Kelly. In 2010, they retired Barbie's little sister Kelly and replaced her with Chelsea. And to be perfectly honest, I kind of just think that's a bummer. You'll see later on, but I'm a pretty big supporter of the anti-Barbie sisters in the BCU movement. But Kelly just made sense. She was written like a real little kid and was kind of like a stand-in for the audience. Number 3, Barbie of Swan Lake. Kelly is going to an overnight camp for the first time and she's scared. So Barbie looks at some constellations with her before remembering a story that could help her feel more secure. It's about a girl named Odette who lives in a bakery with her father and sister. One day she sees a unicorn in town and follows her, Lila, into the enchanted forest and picks up a magical crystal. A fairy queen appears and tells her that she's destined to save the forest from Rothbart, who's been using dark magic to turn her elves into animals. Rothbart hears of what's happening and shows up with his daughter, Odile, and transforms Odette into a swan. But the spell is only active during the day, so her and the elves are free by night. She goes to find Erasmus, who has a book to help them understand the crystal that could save them. Rothbart, somewhere in there, gets the prince to try to hunt the swan, but he's so enchanted that he just can't do it. I guess he finds birds hot. The prince asks Odette to a ball, and shortly after, Erasmus arrives to tell them that true love is what will set them free. Odette decides to attend the ball in the hope of true love. Erasmus gets kidnapped and turned into a worm, then Rothbart transforms his daughter to look like Odette, hoping the prince will profess his love to the wrong girl. It works, and the crystal loses its power. The prince somehow tricks Rothbart into transforming his daughter into a pig. Then there's a chase. Then Rothbart turns the fairy queen into a mouse, then tries to kill the prince, and Odette and the prince fall to the ground intertwined, which makes the crystal explode. Oh, the power of love. And poof! The evil is undone. No one is an animal anymore, except the unicorn, and Rothbart is a cuckoo clock, and Odile is a maid. Kelly is filled with resolve and isn't scared anymore and goes to bed. Oh, and Rothbart is played by Frasier? Are you seeing a pattern? Perhaps a pattern with all-star actors playing the villains? Definitely a classic, though I need to admit I didn't really like it as much as I liked it as a kid. It's also a bit more boring than I remembered, but maybe that's because I've seen it dozens of times. The plot structure feels like it builds then wanes rather than consistently building, and I didn't really like that. But I am in love with the Fairy Queen. She's just so cool. And once again, I am pretty unclear as to what the true plot of Swan Lake the Ballet is. This is another undoubtable reverse Bechdel pass because there's so many men and they won't stop talking to each other. It happens constantly. Number 4, Barbie as Princess and the Pauper. I'm sure that most people who would click on this video, ridiculously long and about Barbie, probably know the plot of Princess and the Pauper, but I'm going to give it to you anyways. In a kingdom far away in a distant timeline, 2 identical girls were born at the same time. One was Princess Annalise, and the other was named Erica. Both girls were loved greatly by their parents, but Erica is worried that they were poor and would be unable to care for their daughter. Years pass, and the queen, since widowed, is told that the kingdom's mine has run out of gold, and she worries that her people will suffer because of it. She decides she'll have to get her daughter to marry a rich young king from a neighboring kingdom. But Princess Annalise doesn't want to get married to the prince, but wants to be with her true love, who just happens to be her tutor, Julian. Erica wants to travel the world, but she's forced to work off her parents' debt as a seamstress. They both are consigned to follow dutifully, but yearn to be free. But lo and behold, the kingdom's bankruptcy is because of the queen's advisor, Preminger, voiced by Martin Short. Okay, I think this is the last of the celebrity voice cameos. Preminger wants to be king and plans to make the princess go mysteriously missing, then bring her back to make the queen decide to make him marry the princess so he can be king. Yucky. Annalise goes out into town for a day to get the last taste of freedom, and she runs into Erica, and they realize that they are just like each other. They become quick friends, but boom! Annalise is kidnapped. Julian smells something fishy, and he convinces Eric to wear a wig and pretend to be Annalise to stop Preminger's plan. Erica begins to fall in love with the prince, Dominic. Annalise escapes her captors, Preminger's henchmen, but she's turned away from the kingdom since the princess is already there and is taken in by Erica's boss. Preminger finds out about the ruse, and Annalise is then taken to the royal mines with Julian. They escape and realize how they can save the kingdom with the resources that are currently in the mine. Preminger convinces the queen that her daughter is dead, and she agrees to marry him. Then, their wedding gets crashed Preminger is arrested, and Erica is out of debt thanks to the princess. Dominic wants to marry Erica, but she tells him she wants to travel the world first, performing her music. A few months later, she decides to return, as freedom can sometimes mean choosing to stay. There's courts in the mine, the kingdom is rich, and it ends with a double wedding and their cats. Oh yeah, they have cats. The cats have kittens. Oh, I forgot to mention, you probably didn't know this. It's a really, really niche fun fact. Barbie Princess and the Pauper is a musical. There is absolutely no way I'm the first person to say this, but this is the best Barbie movie. I know, we're so early on, how can we have the best one? But the music is really interesting and memorable, the voice talents are well cast, the direction is really good, and the story is a twist on a classic. And this is all just a Barbie movie, and it's amazing. This movie is the standard. Not just for Barbie movies, just for movies in general. In terms of the reverse Bechdel test, it passes pretty easily. There's a lot of male characters, and they talk about world domination. But part of that, as with the last few movies, has to do with the fact that pretty much all the characters are pretty well realized. This movie presents Barbie as being able to save the day, do what she wants, and also get the prince. And this really just sets the tone for how Barbie as a character functions throughout all 42 of these movies. This film lives really strongly in the public consciousness. I didn't have this movie when I was a kid, so I didn't actually see it that many times, but it still lived so strongly in my mind. I wanted nothing more than to play the DVD-ROM game. And back to the direction, it really stood out while watching it. There was just a lot of creativity in how it is formed, and it feels like there was so much love put into it. This was the first Barbie movie directed by William Lau, and he did a really amazing job with it. And also, Martin Short really kills as Preminger. It's a temporary setback. Number 5, Barbie Fairytopia. Alina is a flower fairy without wings, meaning that she's unable to fly, which makes her different from the other fairies. She has a little puffball friend who is both Barbie's biggest menace and most lovable character, Bibble. Now, I could make an entire video on just Bibble, but you just need to know that Bibble is a little flying puffball with a unique language who is perfect and also a little bit evil. There's a rumor that an evil fairy named Laverna has been kidnapping fairies all over Fairytopia, but Alina says she doesn't believe it. However, it's true. Laverna is kidnapping guardian fairies and plans to poison all the fairies in Fairytopia so they can't fly, then take over everything. Alina finds out that the flower that she calls home is sick, and other fairies are having trouble flying, so she sets out to Fairy Town to find Azura, the nearest guardian that she knows hasn't been taken. We then learn that Laverna has kidnapped her own sister, the Enchantress, who rules Fairytopia, and then put her into a weakened state. That kind of looks like a coma. Alina and Bibble make their way to Azura's house, and she gives Alina her guardian necklace for safekeeping, just in case she gets taken too. And wouldn't you know it, Azura is taken. Alina and Bibble fly around with Hugh, a friend of Azura, who takes them to the Wildering Wood until they have to make a narrow escape to a cove where they find mermaids, including the famed Prince Nalu. It can be dicey here as to whether it passes the reverse Bechdel test, but I just decided it doesn't. It's my prerogative, I guess. Alina manages to get the help of someone named Dahlia, who sees her necklace and decides to help defeat Laverna, who has kidnapped all the guardians at this point and plans to drain their power. But oh no! Azura's necklace is nowhere to be found! Laverna is understandably frustrated. Alina makes it to the lair, but all of her friends get kidnapped. Laverna says she'll let them go if Alina gives her the necklace, but she refuses. That is, until Laverna tells her she can give her wings and they could rule together. Trapped within a trance, Alina tries to place the necklace around Azura's neck and complete Laverna's spell, but Azura snaps her out of it and she destroys Laverna's plan. Peace and magic is restored, and the Enchantress gives Alina a rainbow necklace that gives her a beautiful pair of wings. This is really, really also a classic. Are you tired of me saying that? But I will say, it's not the best of the series. The Fairytopia series has 3 pretty banger installments, and number 2 is my favorite. We'll get to that later. But this still is one of my absolute favorites, and I don't think I can count the number of times I watched it on VHS. I want to say that number exceeds like 50. It's just such a fun time, and Bibble is just so perfect. Alina is a pretty basic character, and she's not super developed, which is why I think this kind of ranks low for me. But at the very least, there's a very compelling villain. And this continued the trend of these Barbie movies having fairly complex plots for children's films. Number 6, Barbie and the Magic of the Pegasus. Barbie plays Princess Annika, a young royal who just wants to play out on the ice. However, her parents are overprotective and forbid her from going outside. Annika sneaks out to a festival on the lake at night, and then a wizard named Wenlock shows up and tries to marry Annika, reminding the king and queen about the fate of their other daughter. He turns everyone to stone when the marriage is refused, but Annika is saved by a Pegasus named Brietta. She's given 3 days to marry Wenlock, or he'll leave everyone in stone permanently. Brietta and Annika go to the Cloud Kingdom and meet Queen Rayla, and they reveal that Brietta is Annika's missing sister, who was turned into a Pegasus by Wenlock when she turned 16. They go to the Forbidden Forest where they find Aiden, who is a real piece of work, and is literally my favorite Ken out of all of the movies. Annika and Shiver, oh yeah, there's an annoying polar bear named Shiver, and I don't like it, fall into a giant stew pot, but they escape. Aiden says he'll only help them find the Wand of Light that they're searching for if they pay him. They go to a trading post and have a conversation that makes it highly debatable whether this passes the reverse Bechdel test, and we learn that Aiden ran away from home and lost all of his money because he gambled it away. They start collecting some gems to make the wand, and they transform Brietta back into a human. But the wand won't work properly? Wenlock starts pursuing them, and he causes a snowslide that traps Annika. When she comes to, they decide to return to Wenlock to stop him. Annika uses the power of love to make the wand defeat Wenlock, and he loses all magic. All his spells are undone, and the family is reunited. At the end, Aiden and Annika are both wearing crowns, so I guess maybe they got married? And also, Aiden's father forgives him for gambling away their money. I really don't remember this one very vividly at all from when I was younger, but it's a really fun time. The story was fun and interesting, and in very many ways, it was similar to Frozen, but we have to remember that this came out years before Frozen did. Frozen is clearly a ripoff of Barbie Magic of the Pegasus. My one huge critique is that Shiver the Bear is one of the most annoying things I've encountered in my entire life. I truly wanted to kick that bear into another dimension. And as for the reverse Bechdel test, this is our first dubious film. It really all hinges on a singular conversation in which two male characters start talking, then Barbie joins the conversation. So you really could go either way, because I didn't really start this with a rule in mind for that. So I'm going to leave it at dubious, and you can decide what you want to do with it. But one of my favorite parts about this is our lead love interest, Aiden, who has a very weirdly complex backstory. Like, it involves gambling, and I didn't even know that you could mention gambling in a children's film. Like, they're not saying that gambling is good by any means, but I didn't think you could mention it at all. I should also mention that there is a song for this movie, a main theme song, and it's performed by baby Brie Larson. When I'm stuck on the ground, there's no up, only down. Little baby Brie Larson. Number 7, Barbie Fairytopia Mermaidia. Alina and Bibble are back, and they learn that Prince Nalu has been kidnapped by Laverna's fungi. Laverna is looking for the immunity berry in hopes that it can give her more magic and get her out of her banishment. Laverna's main fungus is attempting to coerce their location of the berry from Prince Nalu by threatening to poison the ocean and completely destroy Mermaidia. Alina and Bibble go to the Crystal Cove and run into Nori, a mermaid who wants to save Nalu herself because she isn't too keen on Alina. Nalu and the fungi have the most entertaining scene in the whole movie, Lefting, leftaroo! And Nori and Alina set about finding the Oracle Delphine so they can save Nalu and all of Mermaidia. Delphine directs them to the depths of despair and gives Alina a necklace that will allow her to transform into a mermaid for a period of time. However, if she is in the water when the necklace runs out, she will remain a mermaid forever. Nori ends up getting trapped by the depths of despair, and Alina realizes that she needs a mermaid tail. She transforms, she saves Nori, and they get to the bottom of the depths of despair, where they meet a fish that allows them to see where Nalu is, as well as gives them a bubble that they can follow to get there. Somewhere in there, our mermaids received crests of courage for braving the depths of despair. They cross a cave full of thermal vents, which lives rent-free in my memory, and they end up in a cavern of plants, filled with berries and fruits that can make the eater do strange things. Another scene that lives rent-free in my memory. They find Nalu, and Bibble distracts the fungi guard by singing with the fruits, and they're able to save Nalu. But oopsies! They also need to save the ocean. Fungus Maximus is threatening to poison the water if they don't give up the berry. Alina gives him a berry, and he double-crosses her and drops the poison anyways. Even though her time is almost up, and she'll be a mermaid forever, Alina jumps into the water and stops the poison. She officially is now a mermaid. Alina is naturally heartbroken, even though she's now a hero. Bibble can't live underwater, so he'll have to leave her. But then we learned that they switched the immunity berry last minute to a similar looking berry that shows you your true self. Alina eats one of these berries, and she becomes a fairy with new wings and a cooler outfit. She transforms into her true self. Nori reveals that she's in love with Nalu, lame, and then Alina leaves for Fairytopia. We also learn that Laverna eats the true self berry and is turned into a toad. This is definitely my most fondly remembered Barbie movie. There is just so much to love about this movie, and it's so quotable. You could catch us saying, "Wings for a tail! Wings for a tail!" on a daily basis. Very relatable stuff. And then there's Bibble, who manages to be the most iconic Bibble has ever been. The singing sequence with Bibble trying all the different berries. Oh! This, of course, passes the reverse Bechdel test, because Fungus Maximus and Nalu talk about the well-being of the ocean. Number 8, The Barbie Diaries. Barbie, Tia, Courtney, and their friend, Kevin, are at a beach talking about what they want their sophomore year of high school to look like. Barbie wants to anchor the school's news, Courtney wants to be a better drummer, Tia wants to be class president, and Kevin refuses to say his wish. He just films everything because he's a budding film major. They head to school, and we learn that Barbie has a crush on a guy named Todd, who is unfortunately dating her ex-bestie, Raquel. She tries to audition to be the school news anchor, but Raquel gets the spot and Barbie is assigned as her assistant. But then Kevin, film major he is, calls all the girls and shows them a video he took of Todd and Raquel breaking up. Yikes. Barbie and Todd start becoming close, and Barbie decides that she just needs a good enough story to make it as the school news anchor. Todd and Raquel are on and off again, Raquel bullies Barbie in a shop, and a mysterious shopkeeper gives Barbie a free bracelet and diary. Somewhere in there, Barbie gets the idea to investigate what makes popular students so unique for her news story. We learn that film major Kevin has a crush on Barbie, but is too scared to tell her. Barbie also disguises lip glosses as highlighters, starts spreading them around school, and it makes her popular. Barbie, Tia, and Courtney are in a band called Charms, and they are accepted to perform for the fall formal. They also all get in trouble for Barbie's lipstick highlighter shenanigans, for some reason. Barbie begins to think that the diary is magic, because the things she writes in it become true. She pulls a Katie Heron and starts to become popular, and turns Raquel's friends against her in an attempt to get a good scoop. They find out, and then Raquel steals her charm bracelet. Kevin at some point helped Barbie make her film about the popular kids, and when he shows it to Tia and Courtney, they become mad that Barbie gossiped about them. And then Barbie throws a party and doesn't make it to Janice's art show. Oh, wait, sorry. Sorry guys, that was the wrong movie. When it's time for Barbie to air her news story, she instead puts on some of Kevin's short films, and her friends end up forgiving her. Charms performs at the fall formal, and Barbie learns that Kevin, not Todd, was leaving secret admirer notes in her locker. And then it ends with a dance! I love this movie. Sorry guys. There is just something so perfect about the ways in which adults thought teenagers behaved, but like specifically in like the early 2000s. And then they took that and they put it to film right off the bat. This is obviously a product of Mean Girls. It would literally be silly not to make the comparison because it is directly inspired by it. I mean, I think it is. Though beyond Mean Girls, this movie delivers a lot of great one-liners and some of the most atrociously interesting animation that I have seen in my whole life. It's so grating, and I love it so much. The way men only talk about women? Slay. Their pop-punk garage band? Rivals Fall Out Boy. This is the best piece of media to come out of Mean Girls 2004. This is my Mean Girls 2. There's also a Kesha song on the soundtrack. Perhaps you didn't notice me. I'm invisible, I can't be seen. Number 9. Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses. Barbie plays as Genevieve, who has, you guessed it, 11 sisters, and they all love to dance. They're a bit unladylike, and that disheartens their widowed father, King Randolph. He ends up calling his cousin to help raise them right, but she secretly has plans to take over the kingdom. She becomes very strict and squashes their freedom. She bans dancing in the castle. They discover from a storybook that there is a dance that they can perform on the stones in their room, which leads them to a magical kingdom where they can spend the entire night dancing. Also, the fountain there is magic and can heal all injuries. Keep that in mind. Rowena still suspects they were dancing, which somehow threatens her claim to the throne. In my opinion, that really only aids it. A royal cobbler named Derek shows up, and he is definitely Genevieve's love interest, and he fixes their shoes that are all worn out from them dancing all night. Genevieve asks Derek to find out what Rowena was up to, and he starts sneaking around. But oh great heavens! their father has fallen ill, and we learn that Rowena is actually poisoning him. There's some intense drama in there involving Derek selling his horse and Rowena selling heirlooms from the castle, but that's not important. The girls begin to believe that they are a burden to their father, and they decide to go to the magic realm and stay there indefinitely. Derek follows, and Rowena's monkey watches and reveals their secret to her. She decides to destroy the mosaic and eliminate their way of getting back home. Rowena tricks the king into giving her the crown until he recovers. The girls decide they need to find a way out, and they end up determining that Derek and Genevieve need to dance together to open up an entrance. They return back home, and Rowena tries cursing them using the magic flowers that she stole from the other realm, but it ends up blowing back at her and forcing her to dance forever. The youngest of the 12 sisters shows that she brought water from the other realm, the magic fountain, and their father is healed. And then Derek and Genevieve get married! I genuinely think that the song in this movie will go down in history as one of the best things in existence. Every time I hear the I just feel so happy. As for the movie, it's really fun, but it's not necessarily the best Barbie movie. I'm sorry. I know it's really beloved, but it's not quite as developed as the others. I think the concept goes a little harder than the execution, and I think it just needs a little bit more in terms of how the characters interact. But it's still really good, and there's so much whimsy. As for the reverse Bechdel test, men do interact. It's a true crime because there's literally 13 female characters they could be talking about. 12 dancing princesses. And yet, it also ends with a wedding and is once again about an evil person wanting to grasp power, which, as you might have noticed, is the plot of almost every single one of these movies. Number 10, Barbie Fairytopia, Magic of the Rainbow. Alina learns that Azura wants her as an apprentice off at the Crystal Palace. Alina and Bibble arrive, where they meet another apprentice named Glee and another puffball named Dizzle. There are 7 apprentices at the Crystal Palace for each of the 7 guardians, brought there with the intent to perform the Flight of Spring to stop winter from staying in Fairytopia for 10 years? They attend different magic classes, and Alina begins to realize that she is especially gifted and is just good at everything. But evil lurks, naturally. And by evil, I mean Laverna, who gets Alina to perform an undoing spell on her and change her form from toad to fairy. When Alina tries to tell the guardians about this, they don't believe her because they see Max, disguised as Laverna, still in the banishment bog. They still heighten security, and guardian fairies start falling into comas. It's up to the Enchantress alone to train all the apprentices, or they will have 10 years of winter. They get trained, then they go perform the dance, and there we find out that Alina's apprentice nemesis, Sunburst, has actually been kidnapped and is now Laverna in disguise trying to sabotage the dance. You'd think that Laverna wouldn't want 10 years of winter, considering she also lives in Fairytopia. Laverna tries to destroy the first blush of spring, some flowers that are very important for some reason, but Alina jumps between them and is hurt. All the apprentices channel their energy to Alina, and she's transformed into a rainbow fairy with newer, cooler wings, and I wonder if they made a doll of this. And then, Alina kills Laverna. Like, seriously, I think Barbie just executed someone. Laverna literally is gone. Everyone falls out of their comas, they successfully stave off winter, and the apprentices graduate. And then Bibble and Dizzle share a kiss goodbye. Oh god! This is good, but it's not quite as good as Mermaidia. What really stands out here is the character design, especially of the other apprentices. It's really a shame that they weren't all made into dolls. I know some of them were, but like, the designs were just incredible. I would have literally bought them up in a heartbeat. I remembered the story being really epic when I was younger, and I'm gonna be honest, it did not disappoint. I mean, Alina literally kills Laverna in it, and the stakes involve the entire world being subject to 10 years of winter. This movie really is just wild. Also, it's a reverse Bechdel fail. Number 11, Barbie as the Island Princess. We start out on an island, where we learn a 6-year-old girl was shipwrecked alone with just a few possessions. She's found and raised by a red panda and a peacock who decide to call her Ro, and she grows up learning to talk to animals. Flash forward to when Ro is 16 and there's now Tika. Ugh. Tika, an elephant named Tika. Also, this is a musical. They sing some songs. We are graced with Prince Antonio and his friend Fraser, who find the island and encounter Ro, the prince instantly asking if she would come with him to the kingdom. She decides to go in the hopes of finding her family, and, naturally, she brings her animal friends along too. She meets the royal family, and the king and queen just don't like her, thinking that she's uncivilized, because she was raised, literally, by animals. They want their son to marry royalty, but the princess they have in mind isn't interested in Antonio. And naturally, this princess's mother is evil and wants to kill Antonio's entire family, so she sabotages Ro. At a ball, the prince declares his love for Ro, even though it's literally his engagement party to another woman. The evil queen poisons all the animals in the kingdom with a sleeping herb, and everyone blames it on Ro. She eventually gets freed, but she's banished, and then a sabotage boat makes her nearly drown. Tika nearly drowns too, but she survives. Ro discovers how to save all the animals and heals them, while Tika interrupts the wedding that's taking place. Everyone learns that Ro saved the animals, and that the evil queen tried to poison everyone with cake, and then she's banished. Though her daughter is allowed to stay because she's cool. Ro and Antonio get married, and we learn that Ro is actually Princess Rosella, and her mom finds her. Ro and Antonio go on a honeymoon to her island with all of her animals, including Tika. I'm sorry guys, but I really don't like this movie. It is the lowest rated classic Barbie movie on my entire list, and falls below some much newer movies. I regretfully just can't make myself like it more. The animals were so annoying. It's a musical, but the songs are just forgettable, except for the main one. And overall, I just found it a little bit boring. It passed the reverse Bechdel test immediately, and to add insult to injury, it was in song. I also just have no love in my soul for Tika. It's fairly dramatic with its high stakes, but it didn't really bring anything that new to the table. And I just can't stand Tika.
Cox.
Sorry, I haven't been very consistent putting these up at the right time, but there's so much here that I can't go re-record it. I'm not Taylor Swift. Do you expect me to do re-recordings? Number 12. Barbie, Mariposa and her butterfly fairy friends. The film begins with the last known appearance of Bibble, which is just tragic in itself. It's telling Bibble a story about a faraway fairy kingdom full of butterfly fairies. In this kingdom, Flutterfield, the queen has been poisoned by an evil fairy named Henna, and the lights, which protect the kingdom from monsters called skeezites who eat butterfly fairies, are starting to go out. A brave fairy named Mariposa is determined to save Flutterfield. Mariposa and her friends Reina and Rayla set out to find a cure for the queen, using their wits to get some shells for mermaids in exchange for help on where to go. The mermaids direct them to the Cave of Reflections, but they find it protected by skeezites. Oh no! They trick them and make it into the cave, and the fairy of the cave leads Mariposa to a cavern full of stars, and is told that one holds the antidote. She's able to correctly identify the right star, and then is suddenly given bigger, prettier wings. I wonder if they made a doll of this. Our team makes it back to Flutterfield, and the skeezites are attacking! They go to cure the queen, but Henna is there to stop them, and she tries to convince Mariposa to help her take over Flutterfield. Mariposa gets the antidote back and heals the queen, but then Henna takes the rest of it and makes the lights go out. But then the queen awakens, the lights come back on, and the skeezites are shooed away. Truth be told, I didn't really like this. I know I watched it a lot as a kid, but in retrospect, it really just wasn't as good. It was a little bit boring and didn't really hold my attention, and the big monsters were just so ugly, and it's also very similar to the first Fairytopia. I think they just missed out on making it more unique. It does also, regretfully, pass the reverse Bechdel test. Number 13. Barbie and the Diamond Castle. Barbie and Teresa are playing music together when Stacy runs in, mad at her friend. To help Stacy feel better, they begin to tell her the story of Liana and Alexa, two friends who overcame their anger for each other. Liana and Alexa don't have much, but they have each other and they have music. They plant flowers for a living, and they are literal cottagecore lesbians. They find heart-shaped stones in the river one day and turn them into friendship necklaces, and we learn that the stones actually belong to the magical Diamond Castle. The next day, they share their bread and jam with an old woman, and she allows them to choose one of her treasures in exchange for their kindness. They choose a heart-shaped mirror which turns out to contain Melody, a muse who is on the run from the evil Lydia, who imprisoned the other muses. They learn that Diamond Castle is the home to all music, and they must stop Lydia from destroying it. Their house gets burnt down by Lydia's dragon, and they're off to find the Diamond Castle. They find two puppies along the way for some reason, and they're literally perfect. They also run into twin boys who fall for them, but the girls leave them in their dust. They travel with the twins for a while until they reach a troll bridge, and they end up leaving them behind. The two girls continue traveling, but they soon run out of food and water. They find a mansion in the forest, and they learn that they are foretold in a legend to live in that house. Alexa wants to stay in the mansion, but Liana wants to continue to help Melody, and they're driven apart. Alexa then instantly gets kidnapped by Lydia's dragon. Lydia ends up hypnotizing Alexa with her flute, as she no longer wears the necklace to protect her, and she tells Lydia where Melody and Liana are headed. The girls end up knocked off a cliff, and Liana's able to use the necklace to undo the spell, and they head over to the Diamond Castle's hiding place. They're able to defeat Lydia, with her magic backfiring and making her disappear. They then realize that they just need to sing the song that Melody was singing earlier, and the Diamond Castle reveals itself. They free Melody from the mirror, but poof! Lydia and her dragon are back! They're able to turn her spells against them again, and they turn to stone. The other muses return to life, and the castle is restored. Liana and Alexa are bestowed the title of princess, and the muses give them magical seeds for their garden. They get home, their flowers grow diamonds, and then we briefly remember that they were men in this movie. The story ends, and Stacy apologizes to her friend, and everything is resolved. As much as I wanted to love this, because I'm nostalgic for it, and it's kind of gay, and I love those little dogs, I just didn't really enjoy it. The music was a little bit grating, and the plot could have been better, and those stupid twin boys make it past the reverse Bechdel test. Maybe if I watched it again, I would feel differently. Because when I watched it for this project, it was immediately after I fell down the stairs and refractured my tailbone and gave myself sciatica. So it's possible that this injury made it a little more unbearable. But to be fair, I also watched Princess and the Pauper that night. Princess and the Pauper held up. Also, Catherine McPhee of Smash fame, at least to me, Smash fame, performed a song for this movie. Number 14, Barbie in A Christmas Carol. Kelly is refusing to go to a Christmas Eve charity ball, and Barbie is trying to coax her into coming. She decides to tell her the story of Eden Starling, a diva in Victorian England who is self-centered and believes that in a selfish world, the selfish succeed. She doesn't believe in Christmas, and she forces all her employees to work on Christmas Day, through the threat of firing them. One such employee is her childhood best friend, Catherine. Eden returns home on Christmas Eve, and in the night is visited by the spirit of her Aunt Marie, covered in change due to the cruelty she raised Eden with. She tells Eden that 3 spirits are going to visit her and show her the past, present, and future. The past shows that Eden's Aunt Marie was very strict and wanted her to practice music every hour of every day rather than go out and have fun. She even forbids Eden to celebrate Christmas when she sneaks out to spend Christmas at Catherine's house. We learn that Eden is so selfish because her aunt raised her to be and instilled that within her. Next is a view of her present, where she sees that her employees want to like her, but Eden is just too hard on them. She also sees her friend Catherine spending her extra time helping an orphanage, and Eden learns that the orphanage is due to close soon because of a lack of funding. Then it's time to see Eden's future, which involves her firing all of her employees and losing her friendships. She loses her fame and her wealth, and is left alone with only her cat. Her friend Catherine is successful in the future and has developed the selfishness that Eden exemplified. Catherine becomes Eden. She was worn down by the cruelty of life that was inflicted on the orphans, and she gave up caring about the world and turned in only to herself. When she wakes up in the morning, on Christmas Day, Eden is filled with regret and wants to become a better person. She gives her employees a day off and sponsors the orphanage. She rides away in a carriage with her best girlfriend at the end to spend Christmas Day with Catherine's family. The story ends and Kelly changes her mind, now content with attending the charity ball. Oh, I don't even know how to start talking about this movie. This is the only classic Barbie movie that I didn't see as a kid because it just didn't interest me. I think because the case is red and that's not pink. Maybe it's for the best that I only saw it as a grown adult because it was literally so good. I think it can be kind of difficult to adapt A Christmas Carol because you need to add something fresh to it because it's been done so many times, but you still want to keep that essence. You want to retain its core, and I feel like this, it achieved it. It made it so interesting, and I loved the adaptation of making her like a performer, a diva. That was so fun. And I also really miss Kelly. I think this is Kelly's last appearance, and I miss her so much. I also love the ending because Eden gets asked out by a man, and instead of saying yes, she goes, and then has him drive her and her friend to her friend's house for Christmas. It's just so girl boss. And the cat's a little annoying, but he's not bad. Number 15, Barbie presents Thumbelina. Barbie is helping kindergartners plant trees in a meadow. One girl starts to get made fun of for choosing the smallest tree, and Barbie decides to tell the kids the story of Thumbelina the Twillerbee. Thumbelina has the magic to make plants grow faster, and her main dream in life is to be able to fly. It starts off with Thumbelina inventing fake wings for her and her friends, and when they try them out, they end up getting taken by tractors who scoop up the flower bed and deliver it to an apartment in the city. It turns out that apartment belongs to the parents of McKenna. McKenna is accustomed to getting whatever she wants from her parents. Her dog Poofles manages to suss out the Twillerbees and expose them to McKenna. Thumbelina is mad at McKenna for her parents building a factory on the Twillerbees' field. McKenna, meanwhile, is happy to have found a tiny fairy that she can show to her friend Violet in order to seem cooler. All the Twillerbees manage to escape McKenna's apartment, but then Thumbelina decides to send the others home and stay to convince McKenna to get her parents to stop building the factory. She cuts a deal. If McKenna stops the factory, Thumbelina will make her special fun little trinkets. McKenna wants to double-cross Thumbelina and expose her to her friends in order to look good. Thumbelina, understandably, gets angry and decides to leave. But then, McKenna realizes that the other girls aren't her true friends, but Thumbelina is. McKenna bikes all the way to the Twillerby field and asks for forgiveness and pledges to save them. And with that, McKenna becomes a future environmental studies major. They devise a plan to fill McKenna's parents' greenhouse with beautiful plants to appeal to their humanity and get them to stop their work. They refuse to stop the build. That is, until Thumbelina shows herself, and they are suddenly convinced to stop their contractor from destroying the field. They end up turning the field into a reserved park, and they decide to build their factory somewhere else. And the Twillerbees are saved! The story ends, and we realize that Barbie and the kids are actually in that very park, and Barbie tells them that even the smallest person can make a big difference. This just didn't age very well. Barbie was like trying to be an environmental advocate, but the only reason they didn't build the factory was because there were little people living there, and they still built the factory, just in a different place. Pretty much everybody in this is really, really unlikable, and I just can't get over this, like, arc of becoming environmentally conscious, but, like, not. I don't know, this tried to do something, I just didn't really enjoy it. Number 16, Barbie and the Three Musketeers. Barbie portrays Corinne, a girl who has dreamed her whole life of becoming a musketeer. One day, she heads off to Paris with a letter of introduction for the captain of the Musketeers, who just so happens to have been friends with her father. The men make fun of her and say that a woman could never be a musketeer, and she ends up becoming a maid for the palace, along with 3 other co-workers. During work one day, a chandelier falls from the ceiling and nearly hurts the prince. Corinne finds a gem and determines the rope has actually been cut. It turns out that the prince's advisor, Philippe, is trying to kill them so he can be king. It's only the plot of nearly every single movie we've seen so far, so who would have guessed? When an old maid overhears the girls talking about it, she leads them to a training room and begins to whip them into being real musketeers. Corinne saves the prince from a rogue hot air balloon, which has also been sabotaged, and they become worried that Philippe's men are trying to kill the prince at the masquerade ball. But without any proof, they are fired and kicked from the castle. They dress in disguises and return to the ball using fake names, which are absolutely hilarious.
Lady Barbecue, Duchess Ivana Party, Abby Birthday, Countess Hedda Lettuce.
And they're able to save the prince from being murdered. After saving the day, the girls are deemed true musketeers and they work the rest of their lives protecting the castle. All for one and one for all. This one really rocked, but it was directed by William Lau, so like what did I expect? It was so much fun and the character development in it was pretty good. Like it was spot on. The cat also wasn't horrible, which was a real bonus for me. And the outfits of course truly slayed. I want to have their little gadgets. I want to have the fan and the ribbon so bad. Honestly, this little guy's cute. Number 17, Barbie and a Mermaid Tale. Merlia Summers, a teen champion surfer from Malibu, is, for lack of a better term, during a surfing competition one day, her hair turns pink, and she also learns she can breathe underwater and talk to dolphins. She tells her grandpa, Break, and he tells her that she's actually half mermaid, and that her mother brought Merlia to land after her father, Rip, passed away. She doesn't believe this and heads to the water to clear her mind. And her friends Hadley and Fallon do some internet research and find that mermaids get colored streaks in their hair when they turn 16. It just so happens to have recently been Merlia's 16th birthday. The same dolphin, Zuma, finds Merlia again and tells her that she needs to come with her to Oceania and help save her mother. Merlia's aunt Eris has taken over the kingdom and is weakening the ocean. They disguise Merlia with a tail to blend into the crowds, and they make friends with Kayla and Xylee, who are in it to help Merlia. They learn that Eris has been hauling away citizens of Oceania in dangerous whirlpools, off to a prison, and they are determined to get these people free. They go to meet the Destinies, who can see the future, and they are told they need to find the Celestial Comb, a dreamfish, and Eris's necklace in order to stop her. They find the Celestial Comb in an underwater cave, and they locate the Dreamfish with the help of Fallon and Hadley via video chat. They go to the Eris Festival, perform Queen of the Waves, and take her necklace. And then Merlia is exposed as part human, and she's sucked into one of Eris's whirlpools. Inside the whirlpool, she calls on the Dreamfish, and she's given the offer to either go home for good or replace her legs with a real mermaid tail. She wishes to trade her legs for a tail, and she's now a true mermaid. She escapes the whirlpool, and she proves her claim to the throne with a celestial comb. She exposes to the merpeople that her mother and their queen, Calissa, is being held captive, and the people turn on Eris, who ends up getting caught into one of her own whirlpools. They free Queen Calissa, and Merlia is given a necklace that allows her to change from human to mermaid whenever she wishes. She goes home, and naturally, she wins a surfing trophy. This actually might be my favorite Barbie movie. I don't think it's the best one, but I think it's my favorite. It's just so much fun, and it literally has the exact same plot as Aquaman. I just like to believe that the DC Extended Universe actually copied Barbie and a Mermaid Tale. This is an automatic reverse Bechdel fail because there's one named male character in the whole movie. Maybe two if you count the seahorse, but they never refer to the seahorse with pronouns, I don't think. And the seahorse definitely does interact with Barbie's grandpa, Break. And by the way, Break is one of my favorite Barbie characters. He's just this like old surfer guy thing is really funny. Basically, this movie is so much fun, and if I hear the Queen of the Waves song, I will do the dance. Pop up, lean it side to side, lay back, hang down, go for a ride. Okay. Number 18, Barbie, a Fashion Fairy Tale. We start out on a scene from The Princess and the Pea, and we learn that Barbie is an actress. She ends up getting fired for disagreeing with the director. Someone blogs about her getting fired, probably Perez Hilton, and then Ken breaks up with her over the phone. She decides that to feel better, she'll fly to Paris and be with her Aunt Millicent. More like Aunt Milficent, am I right? As she's flying to Paris, we learn that Ken doesn't even realize he broke up with Barbie because Raquel faked the call using recordings of him saying various phrases. Ken is determined to make a romantic gesture and books a flight to Paris. Barbie learns upon arrival that her aunt's fashion house is going to close down because it just isn't successful anymore. But Millicent's assistant Marie Alice and 3 Flairies aren't going to let that happen. They plan a last-minute fashion show to save the fashion house from being taken over by a hot dog restaurant and begin making new designs. But then designers from across the way kidnap the Flairies for their own personal gain. A few nights later, the pets, oh yeah, there's a lot of pets, end up saving the Flairies, and the designs that Barbie, Marie Alice, and Millicent made are now glittered. The fashion show goes off incredibly well, the fashion house is saved, and Ken arrives and apologizes to Barbie. They're invited to a high-profile fashion party, they ride in limousines, and Barbie is rehired for the movie. There's also a dog romance, but I don't want to talk about it. This isn't the best movie, but it's still pretty enjoyable. Ken was a true treat, and he honestly was a menace in this era.
Yes.
There's a lot of female characters in this. Everyone's pretty well developed. But the dogs, if you couldn't tell, I have a real problem with the animal sidekicks. And the dogs really just, they got to me. Overall, it's just not the most memorable of the films, and I couldn't really tell you in great detail what happens in it. Number 19, Barbie, a Fairy Secret. This follows the same Barbie, a fashion fairy tale, in that she's an actress who has starred in various movies, including Barbie and a Mermaid Tale. She's on a red carpet, and we learn that her stylist used magic to fix her clothing at the premiere. Another fairy, Crystal, in the crowd photographs them and shows it to Princess Graciela, the ruler of Los Angeles. Then, Crystal gives the princess a love potion and makes her fall madly in love with Ken, who quickly gets kidnapped and taken to Los Angeles, much to the chagrin of Graciela's boyfriend, Zane, who can't figure out why his love suddenly just isn't into him. Barbie, her stylist Carrie and Taylor, and Barbie's nemesis Raquel head out right away to try and find Ken, and start by visiting Liliana Roxelle, who reveals that Carrie and Taylor were actually banned from Los Angeles, but they're willing to return to save Ken. They get there, and the humans are disguised with clip-on wings that allow them to navigate around the city. Meanwhile, Ken is in a battle with Zane for Graciela's hand, and it's the funniest clip I have ever seen in my entire life.
Hey, la la la.
Barbie, Taylor, and Raquel sneak into the palace in disguise and try to give Graciela the love potion antidote, but they end up getting sent to a dungeon, all while Graciela tries to marry Ken. Barbie and Raquel talk their rivalry through, and they're able to break out of their dungeons due to the power of forgiveness. They are eventually able to give Graciela the antidote, and it's revealed that Crystal set this entire plan in motion because she wanted to get with Graciela's boyfriend. It turns out that Carrie and Taylor used to be friends with the princess, but they're able to talk it through and they forgive each other, soon becoming friends and them no longer being banned from Los Angeles. The wedding goes forward, with Zane as the groom this time, and the humans are sent back home. They wake up in the morning and believe that it was all a dream, but for some reason, Barbie and Raquel are now friends, and they can't quite remember why. William Lau strikes again. There's just something about the way he directs that's really distinctive, and it's so good. Ken was really funny in this, and while the story didn't really give a lot, it was still a good time. I love how Barbie and Raquel overcame their differences, and I also really liked that they just all thought it was a dream. I like the silly little fairy world, I like Los Angeles, and I also just cannot get over Ken in his Matrix era.
Hey, la la la.
Number 20, Barbie Princess Charm School. Barbie stars as Blair, a young girl who works hard to support her younger sister and her ailing mother. Within their city, there's a princess charm school, where princesses from all over the area attend to learn how to be royal, and every year, the school selects one commoner to receive a full scholarship to the school. Blair isn't particularly interested, her being too busy working, but her sister is and watches the lottery on television, where they learn that Blair wins due to her sister entering her name into the pool for an entire year. Her mother encourages her to go, and she's soon off to Princess Charm School. Blair gets to the school and is greeted by the castle's dog, who seems to recognize her. Interesting. Then she meets her sprite, a tiny fairy that uses magic to help her look stylish. Blair then gets bullied by a mean girl named Delancey and makes an enemy. She then meets her roommates Isla and Hadley, and they become friends. They all attend a welcome ceremony and learn from Dame Devon, a teacher and Delancey's mother, that Delancey is due to take over the crown to become Princess of Gardania, as Devon was the sister-in-law of the queen who passed away in a car accident with her entire family. All the girls start classes, and Blair is struggling to do nearly all of them. She's clumsy and regularly gets embarrassed. Blair learns that Dame Devon was a lottery winner just like Blair, and we learned that Blair was adopted. The graduation ex Delancey's coronation ceremony draws near, and Dame Devon has Blair, Isla, and Hadley's clothes ripped up so they would fail the rehearsal. But the girls are scrappy, so they pull together the scraps and arrive at the palace in their new personalized uniforms. They're allowed to explore the castle, and they begin to believe that Blair is actually Princess Sophia, who is believed to have died in a car crash. Blair was found the day that the queen's family died, and she would be the only thing in the way of Delancey's claim to the throne. We learn that Dame Devon plans to bulldoze the poorer neighborhoods to create more parks, and Blair at first runs away to pack and return home, but then decides that she will find the royal crown and prove to everyone that she's the rightful heir. Blair, Hadley, and Isla try to sneak off to the castle to investigate, but the fire alarm goes off and Dame Devon plants stolen jewelry in their rooms, getting them arrested. But Delancey stops the guard and helps the girls escape because she wants what's right for the kingdom. They make it to the safe room and find the crown, but then Dame Devon locks them in, determined to get her daughter crowned. They figured out how to escape, and they arrive in time to stop Delancey's crowning and to show that Blair is Princess Sophia. Thankfully, the crown glows when on the head of the rightful heir, so I guess that's convenient. Her mom and sister back home are shocked. We learn that Dame Devon killed the king and queen, and she gets arrested. Blair is crowned, and she chooses Delancey as her lady royal. And then it ends with a dance party. This one was really a surprise. I never saw this when it came out because it was after my time. But it's like this fun combo of like Gossip Girl if they were royals. Who doesn't love a little drama? The characters are all fun and distinctly enough characterized that I do remember them all. And the arcs are fantastic. I mean, Delancey. There's also like no male characters, so it's an instantaneous reverse Bechdel fail. Number 21, Barbie: A Perfect Christmas. Barbie and her sisters are so excited to make their way from Malibu to New York to spend the holidays with their favorite aunt, Maleficent. They all have their individual reasons for wanting to be in New York, including Chelsea wanting to see the zoo, Stacy wanting to go skating, Barbie wanting to see a Broadway show, and Skipper wanting to see a song that she wrote be performed live by her friend's band. During their flight, they have to emergency land in Rochester, Minnesota because of the poor weather, but Barbie promises to her sisters that they will have their perfect Christmas. They rent a car and start heading to New York, but they quickly get lost and find themselves at the Tannenbaum Inn, where they end up deciding to stay. Also, the owner of this inn is named Christy Clausen, and her family friends, the Elif family, are helping prepare for a big toy drive for Christmas. Another snowstorm comes through, but Barbie still promises to her sisters that she will get them to New York, and she begins to blame herself for getting their hopes up. When they wake up, it's Christmas Eve and their flight is cancelled, and they simply won't make it to New York in time. Christmas will have to take place at the Tenenbaum Inn. They find shelter dogs dressed up outside as reindeer, and they start to play with them. Chelsea ends up getting swept away by a puppy with a sled chasing a squirrel, and they find a real reindeer in a barn full of wrapped presents. Chelsea thinks it's Santa's barn, but the others don't believe so. Along the way, Skipper runs into a group of guys in a band, and they're fans of her vlog, and she decides to ask them to perform the song she wrote for a dog show to help get the dogs adopted. There's some kerfuffles in making this event happen, and Skipper reveals that she just doesn't feel that she can measure up to Barbie. But they reconcile, and Skipper learns that you can never do something all on your own. Chelsea goes missing, and they find her in the present barn again because she was playing with the reindeer. They go outside and see that the reindeer are gone, and only sleigh tracks are seen. Then they return to the barn and find a stage, decorations, and chairs for guests. And Chelsea is convinced that it must have been the work of Santa. The show goes on, and it's live streamed, and hundreds of people see it, and Aunt Maleficent somehow gets to the barn to spend Christmas with her nieces. And then it ends. I can't tell what's worse about this movie. The fact that this movie's a musical, or the fact that I wrote the entire plot summary without remembering it was a musical. This movie isn't good because I don't remember watching it. And when a film centers on Barbie and her sisters, it just inevitably will be a little bit worse than all the others. The dynamic between Barbie and her sisters just doesn't feel super well developed and isn't something I latch onto. This is my favorite of the Barbie and her sisters series, but that isn't saying much. This movie doesn't pass the reverse Bechdel test, thankfully, because there really aren't male characters to speak of. There's an elf and the boys that Skipper gets to play the music, but they're really, really peripheral, not very important. I suppose it does kind of get you in the Christmas spirit, but it includes a lot of boring subplots. This movie also does not make it clear as to whether Skipper runs a podcast, or a vlog, or a blog, or a website. I don't really get it, and I don't think they intended for it to make sense. Number 22, Barbie and a Mermaid Tale 2. Merlia is invited to a surf competition in Australia because she placed first at one in Malibu and she's ecstatic. She goes to Oceania to tell her mother, but finds out that it's the same day as the changing of the tide ceremony in a place called Aqualia, near New Zealand, which requires a member of the royal family to sit on the throne and recite an ancient rite in order to gain the power of Merlia. But Merlia wants to go surf instead. Merlia, her friends Hadley and Fallon, plus Merlia's rival Kylie, go to Australia for the competition. During an advance to the finals, Merlia gets the attention of reporters for a surfing trick and is asked to be a spokesperson for surf gear. Kylie is quite jealous. At a luau, in Australia, Merlia takes off her necklace for a photo shoot, and Kylie is convinced by a fish named Alistair to take the necklace, telling her that Merlia was using it to make her better at surfing. Alistair gets Kylie to put it on and turns her into a mermaid, then leading her to Eris's whirlpool prison, traps her in, which lets Eris out. Naturally, Eris wants to go to the ceremony so she can get the power of Merlia. Luckily, Snout sees this and goes to Merlia for help. Eris somehow convinces a group of big fish to help her, and we learn that Eris has a new power to make someone experience their worst nightmare. Absolute scarecrow core.
Not my diagnosis.
Merlia and Snouts rescue Kylie, and she feels bad about what she did, and decides to help Merlia defeat Eris. Eris, meanwhile, is causing havoc and making all the mermaid ambassadors at Aqualia experience their worst nightmares, as well as Queen Calissa, whose worst nightmare is being unable to swim. Because of this, Merlia decides to do the ceremony to stop Eris, knowing that it will make her a mermaid forever. She gets to the throne, but she doesn't have a tail since Kylie is using her necklace to breathe underwater, and Kylie sacrifices the necklace for Merlia to complete the ceremony. It works, and Kylie is saved, but a sacrifice would have been fun. A spell somewhere in there reflected back on Eris, and now she has only legs instead of a tail, and she's lost her magic. Merlia is meanwhile upset that she doesn't have legs, and she just wants to surf. Queen Calissa lets Kylie keep the necklace, and Merlia wishes to be human, and her legs come back. It turns out the ceremony makes the person into their true self. Merlia and Kylie make it in time for the competition, and Kylie ends up winning, but then they hold the trophy together, and we end with a dance party. I don't like this one quite as much as the first Mermaid Tale, but it is still pretty good. I think like the story arc could have been a bit better and the pacing improved, but it did rock. It literally rocked enough for me to critique it as if it were a film in a class. I do, however, kind of wish that Merlia didn't get the best of both worlds at the end. At this point, I think I've just watched so many Barbie movies that I'm tired of her getting everything. You know, she needs to take an L. I also think they could have done something a little more interesting with the ceremony turning you into your true self. Like with Eris sitting on the throne and being like transformed into something. I don't know. They could have done something there. But really, my biggest critique for this movie is that there isn't another one. I would love to see a movie with Kylie and Merlia, both as mermaids having an adventure. It's truly a missed opportunity. Number 23, Barbie, the Princess and the Pop Star. This film takes place in a magical kingdom called Mariposa, where Princess Tori wants nothing more than to go to the concert of her favorite pop singer, Kira. Despite this, she has to prepare for her kingdom's 500-year anniversary and can't sneak away. Meanwhile, Kira wants nothing more than to have time to write her songs, because the pressure of fame is keeping her too busy. Tori wants a fulfilled life of a pop star, and Kira wants the carefree life of a princess. Oh yeah, they also look identical. Tori puts Kira's name on the celebration's guest list, and they're able to finally meet and realize that they look nearly identical, only that their hair is different, which, luckily, they can use Tori's magic hairbrush in order to change. They can also use Kira's magic microphone to transform their outfits. They sing some songs that I swear I recognize from somewhere. To be a princess is to know which spoon to use. And they decide to trade places for the day. We also see that the kingdom has a magic garden that has fairies and diamond flowers. And the kingdom's in a drought! Tori and Kira aren't able to communicate, end up getting pulled into duties that they aren't prepared for while in disguise. Somebody, literally he's so irrelevant, just somebody, tries to steal the diamond flowers, and the kingdom goes into further drought. But then, our intrepid heroes are able to stop the villains, they restore the kingdom's water, and they pull an epic sleigh and perform a concert. I genuinely hated this movie, and I've decided to describe it as a postmodernist nightmare. It attempted to capture the magic of Princess and the Pauper, but it just didn't. There were just some really strange choices. Like, the song Perfect Day plays, and when I say perfect day, I mean, on this perfect day. This was like 2013? I don't know. There's also a reworked version of Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but it's made to be about princesses, and only one of them's a princess. They also have the entirety of Princess and the Pauper to pull from, and instead of choosing to do a remade version of I Am a Girl Like You, they choose to be a princess, which is fine. They could have not. It's all fine. They just should have leaned into it more. There's also a bit in this about how the princess's kingdom is in a drought and it's leading to poverty. Like, there's literal characters who say, like, I want to go to the concert, but I can't afford to. And then it's, like, not really addressed. I think, like, they make the concert free. It's also a reverse Bechdel pass, which is pretty lame. Number 24, Barbie in the Pink Shoes. Barbie plays Kristen, who is a dancer that is preparing for a big showcase. Her friend, Haley, works in the wardrobe department and is trying to find Kristen a new pair of shoes, when the costume mistress gives them a pair of pink point shoes that transform Kristen into Giselle and transports her and Haley to a magical ballet world. They decide that the only way to get through this is for Kristen to dance Giselle solo, and she's asked by both Prince Albrecht and Hilarion to marry them. Kristen rejects both men, and when they go to leave, they are stopped by the Snow Queen, who wants to know why the story is being deviated from, and she sets her course out to hunt down Giselle. Or Kristen. Haley determines the shoes need to come off for them to return home, but Kristen has already run off and is transformed into Odette at the lake. The prince sees them and dances with Odette while Rothbart watches over them before he turns both Kristen and Haley into swans. They make it to the prince's ball, interrupt the prince dancing with Odile, and the day is saved. At least for a moment, until the Snow Queen kidnaps Haley because she doesn't belong in the story. She's not canon. Kristen follows them, but cries when she thinks she won't be able to find her friend Haley. Hilarion and Albrecht help her get to the Snow Queen, who makes Kristen and Haley dance against their will. Not cool! Kristen, mad lad that she is able to overcome the Snow Queen's powers by making up her choreography. She takes off her shoes, and Haley and her return home. We then realize that all the characters in the story mirror the other dancers and characters we saw at the beginning. They make it in time for the showcase, and Haley whips out her new outfit for Kristen in 15 minutes. Which is fairly impossible. Kristen decides during her performance to make up the choreography and dance how her heart says, and her outfit magically transforms halfway through the performance. Thank you, Haley. We learn that there's talent scouts in the audience and they want all the dancers, plus Haley, to be part of their prestigious company. Then the pink shoes are packed away until they're needed again. This one felt very mid while I was watching it, but in retrospect, it's pretty fun. There were a lot of throwbacks to the old movies, which was nice, especially Swan Lake. But overall, it was a little bit lackluster. It was very funny, but the story didn't do a lot for me, and the moral of the movie was a little confused. Barbie decides to follow her heart rather than dance the actual choreography, and it's a nice thought, and in many contexts it makes sense, but I feel like in this context, you're supposed to be doing a dance. It's about, like, the discipline, and so I don't feel like it makes a lot of sense. It's like as if she were an actor and she decides to make up her lines in the middle of the performance. There just is some value in, like, learning and performing something as it was intended, and I know what they were going for, but the context was a little funny. Number 25, Barbie Mariposa and the Fairy Princess. Mariposa is back, and the butterfly fairies desire to make peace with the crystal fairies by sending a representative to the kingdom of Shimmervale. And naturally, Mariposa is chosen because she has no prejudice and believes that she can help both kingdoms of fairies overcome their differences. She arrives to Shimmervale, and immediately, all the crystal fairies are afraid of Mariposa and have misconceptions about how butterfly fairies live their lives. Everyone has reservations, except for the princess of the kingdom, Catania, who greets Mariposa warmly. Mariposa doesn't fit in, literally, and she worries she's embarrassing not just herself, but portraying a bad look for all of her kind. Meanwhile, an evil fairy named Gwillian is attempting to perfect a spell to transform crystals into dark rocks and wants to take control of the crystals in the kingdom for more power. After some struggles to fit in, the king tells Mariposa that her wings are too large and bothersome, and she is forced to keep her wings folded down. Mariposa and Catania start to become friends, and they go to Glowwater Falls, where Catania hadn't been for many years. We learned that when Catania was 8, she was captured by Gwillian and dropped from a great height, and her wings were broken. Since then, she's been too afraid to fly, so she travels around with a flying horse instead. Catania and Mariposa exchange gifts from their kingdoms, and everyone at the ball assumes that Mariposa stole the crystal necklace she received. The king bans Mariposa from Shimmervale, and she returns the necklace. While she's returning to Flutterfield, she sees Gwillian trying to take control of all of the crystals of the kingdom, and she decides to try and stop her. She ends up getting frozen, and it's up to Catania, who followed Mariposa there, to use her courage to fly and fight Gwillian. Mariposa and Catania use the Flutter Flower from Flutterfield to revitalize the crystals of Shimmervale, and everyone is saved. The king wants to destroy Gwillian, but Catania refuses this, stating that all Gwillian wanted when she came all those years ago was one crystal, and her dad refused to be generous, which is what caused her to get injured. She gives Gwillian a crystal, and Gwillian leaves in peace. They're able to eliminate the tensions between the two types of fairies, and then it ends with a dance. This movie was an absolute treat and a complete surprise. Based on how much I didn't really like the first Mariposa on rewatch, I didn't expect that I'd like this one at all. There is just so much to love about this movie. There's a lot of topics that I didn't think would be mentioned in a Barbie movie, like war and cultural tensions and trauma. And then it resolves with them giving the bad guy a second chance. It literally encourages sharing. Yeah, this one was just fantastic. It was so much fun. There's one other absolutely integral figure that I have to talk about for these movies, and you may know who he is by now. That person is William Lau, director of movies including Barbie Princess and the Pauper and Mariposa and the Fairy Princess. As Julie and I started watching the movies, we noted that some of them just had really fantastic direction. Then we started to notice that those movies were all directed by the same person, William Lau. We felt like there was a lot of creativity in how he presented these films, and we started to become just so excited whenever his name showed up. And I have a very, very special treat today. I would like to share that I was able to correspond with Mr. Lau and learn about his time at Mattel, and I am so happy to share this interview with you today. How did you get involved with directing Barbie movies for Mattel?
I consider myself fortunate to have served as a director for Hasbro's Beast Wars series, but when the opportunity arose to direct a full-length feature, I couldn't resist. Despite my prior experience working on 22-minute episodes, I was excited to take on this new challenge. Being entrusted with Mattel's first musical concept for the iconic Barbie franchise was an absolute honor and a dream come true. To have this chance to work with not one, but two beloved Barbie characters was truly a privilege, and I'm immensely grateful for the trust placed in me to bring this big project to life.
How did you approach creating media for a brand that was already incredibly famous?
As the director of Mattel's first musical concept for the iconic Barbie franchise, I feel incredibly fortunate to have had the opportunity to work on such a beloved and well-known brand. It was a dream come true to direct a full-length feature and fully immerse myself in the Barbie fantasy world. Working with two beloved Barbie characters was a privilege, and every detail went through a rigorous vetting process by the Mattel executives. The late Walter Marchesius' signature style of gorgeous pastels gave the classic Barbie movies a magical and stylish look, inviting audiences into the Barbie fantasy worlds with such richness and appeal. It's important to note that Barbie Pink, Pantone Color PMS 219, is a significant part of her brand, and it can be seen in her outfits and sets, adding to the overall charm of the films. Unfortunately, Walter passed away in March of this year, leaving behind a beautiful family and a lifetime of incredible art that his fans will enjoy forever. Overall, I'm grateful for the opportunity to have contributed to such an iconic franchise and consider it one of the highlights of my career.
What was the extent of creative control you had as a director over each film's production?
I was given a lot of creative freedom during the boarding and animation phases to bring my vision to life. Of course, as with any movie, collaboration was key, but ultimately the brand and marketing teams had the final say in any assets that would be used for toy sets or dolls. As early as the script development stage, I worked closely with producers to ensure that the production stayed on budget and on track schedule-wise. I provided input on story, dialogue, characters, and concept designs to achieve the best possible storytelling on screen. I also had to make some tough decisions, such as suggesting cuts or adjustments to the script to keep the runtime manageable or to avoid going over budget due to complex visual effects. Once the scripts and some character and set designs were approved, we hired voice actors and worked with a voice director to record the dialogue. I then created a thumbnail storyboard of the entire movie with quick sketches to get a feel for the movie's flow and basic shots. This rough animatic was used to guide our performance capture, where our actors created the physical personalities of their characters while acting to the voice actors' dialogue. The animatic was also used to guide the timing of the performance and animation. After all the animation and performance capture was completed, we added lighting and rendering, as well as sound effects and music, to bring the movie fully to life. Overall, it was an amazing experience to contribute to such an iconic franchise and to have the opportunity to shape the characters and stories in so many ways.
How was the experience directing these movies that were primarily directed towards a young female audience? How did that affect the creative process?
Barbie movies can't just be about fashion and playsets. They're about empowering young girls to overcome obstacles and pursue their dreams. As the creator of these movies, I always aimed to create stories that would appeal to a broad audience while maintaining authenticity in how young female characters navigate different situations. Barbie's character is not your typical action hero who relies on physical strength to overcome challenges, but instead uses communication skills to negotiate with the antagonist for a positive outcome. Boy-driven toys would be vehicles and powerful weapons, and the girl play patterns usually include fashion or recreational playsets. Not to say the Barbie movies didn't have action. The Three Musketeers and Mermaid's Tale were designed to send a positive message to young girls that they too can do any of the physical stuff that boys do. Barbie's motto is, "You can do anything if you set your heart and mind to it." That's why she's represented in so many different professions in her doll lineup, including athletes and even musketeers. It is likely that the brand is protecting the image of Barbie, as she is typically portrayed as flawless in the movies. Her character does not undergo significant changes, so her struggles are usually physical or intellectual obstacles, such as solving a mystery or defeating a villain with magic or other external means. The transformation of her character is often reflected in her costume, such as when she gains her wings in Fairytopia or her Mermaid Tale in Mermaidia, as a reward for doing the right thing. In my opinion, Barbie's role in the story is primarily to serve as the enchanted vehicle that takes the audience on the adventure, while the character arc of the secondary character is often the one that we follow, as they learn to change and become a better person through Barbie. I believe that Barbie in A Christmas Carol was one of the only movies in which Barbie played a character who was essentially the villain of the story, but like Scrooge, she learned to become a better person by the end.
Were there certain requirements for the movies as they're intended to help sell tie-in toys?
The Barbie movies were created with the intention of promoting tie-in toys, which sometimes posed a challenge for the writing design team. They needed to seamlessly incorporate new dolls, dresses, sets, and props into the main storyline. The transformations are fun, but it's often hard to come up with new and fresher ways to do it. Usually it's the classic FX sparkle wipe transition into the new form. Depending on the release dates of the movies, the winter and fall releases are the bigger ones because of Christmas, we were given designs and prototypes of the new doll line, which is really cool to see. To integrate the new wing folding feature of the doll into the story of Mariposa and the Fairy Princess, the team came up with a clever physical challenge where Mariposa's wings kept smacking into things. We came up with a scene where Mariposa figures to fold her wings into a dress during the preparation for the ball scene. This not only provided the audience with a purposeful toy figure integration into the story, but also comedic material that showcased the challenge of dealing with her unique big cumbersome wings in the land of Shimmerville.
Do you have any thoughts on the new Barbie 2023 movie and the surge of popularity for the brand?
I believe that the new Barbie movie has the potential to be a hit. The trailer showcases a lighthearted comedy that doesn't take itself too seriously and explores how the world has changed since Barbie's heyday. I'm excited to see how the movie will address the criticism of Barbie's unrealistic body standards and beauty ideals. It's refreshing to see that in Greta's Barbie, all characters are portrayed by a diverse group of actors and actresses, reflecting the reality of today's world. While working on various animated movies, I have noticed a lack of inclusiveness and diversity, except for a few exceptions like A Christmas Carol, which I worked with an up-and-coming executive producer at the time, Court Lane, where he pushed for more representation on screen. This resulted in the introduction of Catherine, the first African-European Barbie in the movies. I had the pleasure of working with Court again on my latest show, My Little Pony, Make Your Mark. Overall, I'm optimistic that more movies will follow suit and promote inclusiveness and diversity on screen.
I know that you've also directed movies for Mattel's Monster High brand. How did that compare to your time with Barbie?
I was very fortunate to work on both Monster High and Barbie, and I must say that Monster High was a refreshing change of pace in terms of themes and style. Unlike Barbie's perfect and poised characters, Monster High embraced flaws and celebrated differences. Characters were cartoonier, and we were able to get more expression and comedy out of our stories in MH. Although the toy designs and fashion were a bit over-sexualized for my liking, it was still a trend at the time, and parents didn't seem to mind too much. While Bratz took most of the backlash for most of that, Monster High continued to push boundaries and promote individuality in its own freaky, fabulous ways. Overall, I'm proud to have contributed to both of these iconic franchises in very different ways.
What do you know about the legacy left by these movies amongst the generation that saw them when they came out? I vividly remember watching so many of the films you directed when I was younger, and they left a very strong impression on me. And especially in recent years, I have seen so many other people showing their love for these movies, especially Princess and the Pauper, on YouTube and TikTok.
Lately, the number of fan messages and emails I've received from both men and women over the past few years was pleasantly surprising. It appears during the pandemic, many of us sought comfort in childhood shows and movies that brought us joy in our younger days. Fans often expressed their appreciation for these movies and shared how they inspired them to pursue music, dance, or singing. I'm grateful to the fans for keeping these older movies alive through their fun videos, memes, and discussions on social media and forums. It's amazing to see how our character like Preminger has become such a cult favorite on the internet, and Martin Short did an incredible job with his villainous voice. Some insider information. To add a unique twist to the character, I decided to have a female actress do the motion capture for him, and I believe she delivered a great performance that brought some interesting and humorous nuances to Preminger.
What was your favorite movie to work on, and why?
I have a few personal favorites that I'd like to share with you. One of them is P&P, which holds a special place in my heart as it marked my directorial debut on a feature-length project and my first venture into the world of musicals. Another favorite of mine is Barbie and the Three Musketeers. Working on this film was an absolute blast, as it allowed me to combine strong female leads with exhilarating, swashbuckling action. Collaborating with talented stunt performers and master fencers, we created thrilling sword battles and action choreography that brought the movie to life for me. Lastly, I must mention Mariposa and the Fairy Princess, the final Barbie film I directed. This movie, in my opinion, achieved a level of aesthetic quality that rivaled big theatrical productions. The art design, character models, animation, and renders all reached an incredible standard that is rarely seen even in today's TV space.
Is there anything else you'd like to share about your time with Barbie, or about your work in general?
Barbie's played a significant role in my career, teaching me valuable lessons about storytelling, animation and technology, and the importance of creating responsible programming for young viewers. When Barbie first emerged, there were few aspirational figures, especially for young girls. I appreciated our EP Rob Hudnut's decision to focus on more classical stories during his time at Mattel. Although the trend shifted towards contemporary settings and modern themes later on, I've always had a soft spot for period and fairy tale stories. Being transported to a different time or world makes for a more enjoyable journey, don't you agree?
So before I move on, I would like to give a very special thank you to William Lau for just answering my questions so thoroughly and so wonderfully. I really, really appreciate it. And I'd also like to thank my friend Karsten, who very graciously recorded all of these lines for me so I could make it into a video form. If you would like to check out Karsten's stuff, his Instagram's right here, and you should check out his band, the Wind-Up Birds. I will also link them somewhere on here or in the description. Alright, go back to the video now. Number 26. Barbie and her sisters in a ponytail. Barbie and her sisters go to the Alps to visit their aunt. Not Millicent, but Marlene, who runs a horse riding academy. They meet their aunt and cousins, plus some puppies, and Skipper just wants to spend all of her time with her tablet. Stacy hopes to quickly get a handle on horseback riding, but is sorely disappointed to learn that she can't be good at everything on the first try. Me too, Stace. Me too. Meanwhile, Chelsea is upset that her horse is little, and she wants to be like the big girls and ride a big horse, but she's stuck with a pony. We also learn that there will be a big equestrian tournament soon with a lot of prize money, which could lead us to assume that maybe the Academy is going to need that money. Barbie and her sisters go horse riding, and Barbie sees a pink horse in the distance and starts to get suspicious. She asks Etan, the riding master, and he says that they're an ancient breed of horse called a Majestique, but his brother Philippe says that they're just a fairy tale and don't actually exist. But then we learn that Philippe knows they exist, and he's a little bit evil. Barbie goes back to where she saw the horse, and ends up getting attacked by a pack of wolves, but then is saved by the Majestique. The horse runs away, but Barbie is determined to find her. When she tracks her down, she finds her trapped in some boulders, and she frees her and bandages her leg. Barbie names her Majesty. Very creative, Barbie. Also, the sisters are up to shenanigans right now, but I don't really care. While Barbie has found the Majestique, Philippe is also searching the Alps to find them and starts spying on Barbie. Barbie is taken behind a waterfall to the Valley of the Majestiques and finds the whole herd, and they accept her. We then learn, surprise surprise, that their aunt needs the tournament money to keep the school open, or she will have to sell it. During the competition, Chelsea wins the pony parade, Skipper wins the dressage competition, and Stacy makes it in second for the cross-country competition. They are tied with the school who wants to buy them. A dance takes place, Skipper flirts with a boy, and Chelsea gets bucked off a horse. If this were real life, she would be rushed to the hospital, but this is Barbie, so no one gets seriously injured. In the midst of all this, the horses escaped, and Barbie figures they may be hiding in the Valley of the Majestiques. They find them there with Majesty and lead them back, but Philippe is close on their trail. Barbie wants to make sure that they win the competition for her aunt, so she decides to use Majesty for the competition. Her saddle gets sabotaged by Philippe at the start, so she jumps on bareback and is able to lead and win the trophy. Skipper had recorded it with her tablet and put it online, and it went viral! So the school has enrollment now, and the girls decide that they had the best summer ever. It ends with Barbie deciding not to bring Majesty to Malibu, because she's meant to be free with her family. The horses and the animals in this one were really well designed, which is kind of funny, because the people were so ugly. It looks like they took the Life of the Dreamhouse characters and then put them into an environment and kind of poorly lit them. Like, they just didn't look right. There was also nothing notable about the character designs, and I don't really remember any of the characters other than Barbie and her sisters. I'm sure horse girls loved this movie, though. It's like the only Barbie movie that really is about horses, unless you want to count Magic of the Pegasus, and I wouldn't. The story was fine, but it did just make me wish I was watching Spirit, the Stallion of Cimarron. All we need is a Bryan Adams soundtrack playing over that final scene. I'm also really in love with these little dogs because my roommate for the past year, she had a little dog, and he looks like them, and I miss him. Number 27. Barbie, the Pearl Princess. Barbie stars as Lumina in The Pearl Princess, a young mermaid with the ability known as Pearl Magic. She's using this magic to throw a pretend ball with her fish friends, but she's told to stop playing when her guardian, Skyla, shows up and scolds her for using her magic outside the house. Lumina's dream is to be a princess, and she thinks about it constantly. Meanwhile, an evil advisor to the kingdom tries to encourage the king and queen to have a public appearance, but they're too lost in grief over losing their daughter. I wonder where this is going. Caligo states that because they don't have an heir, the kingdom should go to his son, which they somehow agree to, and they decide to throw a ball to find Caligo's son, Baylis, a queen. Back with Lumina and Skyla, an eel named Murray arrives and asks Skyla to poison the king at the royal ball. She refuses, because that is murder, but Murray threatens to tell the kingdom that Skyla murdered the princess if she doesn't follow through. Murray starts to become suspicious of the identity of Lumina, so Skyla throws him out and agrees to the terms. Lumina begs Skyla to take her to the kingdom, but she naturally refuses, telling her that there are horrible dangers on the way. Skyla leaves, and Lumina soon realizes that she forgot her invitation, so she decides that this is her time to chase after Skyla and get to see the city. They make friends with the horrors that Skyla describes to Lumina, including a stonefish named Spike. Lumina uses her powers to cover Spike's, well, spikes with pearls, and suddenly people aren't as afraid of him. They end up hiding in a salon for some reason, and suddenly Lumina is slinging pearl-ridden hairstyles left and right with her pearl magic. While working at the salon, Lumina makes friends with a girl named Cora, who begins to fall for Caligo's son, Fergus. Then, Lumina gets captured in a sack and taken to a dungeon, but she uses her pearl powers to escape, so it's okay. Skyla, meanwhile, has put poison in the drinks, but Caligo can't determine if she's trying to poison him or the king as he asked. It's a real Princess Bride situation. Eventually, the drinks are all spilled, and Caligo tries to get Lumina arrested for trying to kill the king, and then pushes Skyla into Spike and gets her leg poisoned. Fergus, cottageport plant lover he is, has the one plant that can cure the poison, and Skyla is all better. Caligo is revealed to be evil, and the king and queen learn that Lumina has pearl magic, so she must be the lost princess. Turns out that Skyla took Lumina from the castle when she was a baby, because she was paid to kill her, but couldn't bring herself to do it. She transforms into a prettier mermaid, knowing that she's now the true heir, and Caligo's thrown out of the castle. Which I think is a pretty weak punishment for, 3 to 5 counts of attempted murder. This movie started out pretty mid, and then it just kind of got better and better. It wrapped up so stupidly quickly, and the men in it were kind of useless. Speaking of men, this one's a little dubious as to whether it passed the reverse Bechdel test, but I'm I'm going to say it's a fail. If it's that contested, it's probably a fail. With how many named men there are in this, I feel like they had to have had a conversation. I just don't think they ever didn't involve Skyla or Lumina. My favorite part of watching this was on the very, very legal site that we watched it on. The captions changed the name of Fergus to Fergie. And that was just a good time.
Number 28, Barbie and the Secret Door. Barbie stars as Princess Alexa, a royal who would rather read and enter her imagination than do her princessly duties. She's sad to be cooped up and is awkward around the procedures she's supposed to follow. Her grandmother senses she is searching for something more and gives her a magic book that unlocks you'll never guess, a secret door. This door transports her to the magical kingdom of Zinnia, filled with magical creatures. She meets a fairy named Nori, interesting, and a mermaid named Rami. Both of their wings and tail, respectively, have been taken by an evil princess named Malusha, who's been taking all the magic she can out of sheer greed. Malusha is impatient and has a complex regarding the fact that she doesn't naturally have magic, so she uses beings called sniffers to hunt down magic, then uses a scepter to take that magic away. Alexa, meanwhile, does have innate magic, and she tries to use it to return Nori's wings and Rami's tail, but they realize they have to get the magic directly from the scepter in order to restore what's been lost. Malusha tricks a fairy into leading her to the Queen Unicorn, who has a lot of magic, and ends up capturing her, and they soon learn that nobody has magic anymore because Malusha has taken it all. Well, except for Alexa. Our trio heads to Malusha's castle and arrive just as she's taking all the magic from the unicorns, which turns the kingdom dark and scary. Alexa realizes that the amount of magic that Malusha is wielding is unstable, and she decides to let her take her own magic, which makes the scepter housing the magic explode, releasing all the magic and undoing all the spells Malusha has cast. Everybody leaves, and Malusha's parents come home? I don't know. They return to the magical grove, and Alexa returns everyone's magic, and then she realizes that she must say goodbye and pass through the secret door again. Through this adventure, she's able to have overcome her shyness and awkwardness and feels content in her royal duties.
This one was weird. It's reverse Bechdel dubious because two male-coded characters do talk about something completely unrelated to female characters, but they also make a note that in that universe, they don't know what a boy is. And so I don't know what to make of that because I don't know. This movie as a whole is clearly the result of Wreck-It Ralph. There's all that sugar and the evil candy girl who kind of looks like the King Candy guy. Overall, it's not my favorite, and it's pretty unmemorable.
This pink looks better blue. How amazing. I think of butterflies. Suddenly here they are.
Number 29, Barbie and Princess Power. Princess Cara is trying out a flying machine made by her friends when she has a slight crash landing and her parents freak out. They don't want their daughter to die doing something stupid because she's supposed to take over the kingdom one day. But naturally, they have an advisor who secretly wants that role to be given to him, and he attempts to create a chemical that'll give him superpowers. He isn't successful, or so he thinks, as some of his potion dripped onto a caterpillar who transforms into a powerful butterfly that kisses Cara and gives her powers. She has super strength, she can fly, and she's fast. And she figures it must have been the butterfly that gave her powers. She designs an alter ego named Super Sparkle, and she starts saving people, including a reporter named Wes Rivers, who is just Lois Lane. Her friends somehow create a secret base to help her with the superhero wing, and she starts making a name for herself as a hero. She ends up leaving her own birthday party to go stop a robbery, and her cousin, Corinne, starts to get suspicious, especially when she sees Super Sparkle transform back into Cara. Corinne hunts down the magic butterfly and is given a kiss, and she transforms into Dark Sparkle, becoming Super Sparkle's rival. Wes Rivers exposes Super Sparkle's identity on his blog, because he's a fake friend, and Cara's parents are upset and forbid her from putting herself into more danger. However, the evil advisor that you probably forgot about has just figured out his potion, and now he has superpowers, and he tries to attack the king. Then, Corinne and Cara start working together to save her parents, and eventually the whole city, because our villain is trying to set off a volcano? They're able to stop the villain and save the day, and Cara begins a community garden. And she learns something about responsibility, I think.
This is one of the more annoying Barbie movies, primarily because the animation is so bad. All of the female character models look the same. And as for the plot, it's really forgettable. It's the product of the popularity of the MCU. It had a hard time balancing the princess and superhero aspects, and it once again was about a royal advisor trying to seize power. Sorry guys, I gotta take my be real. There we go. Princess Power just sucked. I don't know. It's the same plot that's in all of them. There were a few funny, like, little tiny references to, like, superhero stuff. Like, I think there was, like, a few Superman references, but...
Number 30. Barbie and Rockin' Royals. We have an island that houses 2 summer camps. One for young royals and one for young musicians. 2 girls, Princess Courtney and Erica, accidentally switch places and end up in the wrong camp. When the headmistress of the Royals camp hears Erica sing, she decides that the 2 camps should have a sing-off, and the losing camp will have to close permanently. The heads of both camps have a bit of a sordid history, and they want the other's camp to be gone so they can extend their own. Courtney and Erica eventually meet up and realize the mistake, but decide to keep on with the switched-up camps because they've begun to make friends and learn more about themselves, being in an entirely foreign environment. They soon learn that the losing camp will have to close in the competition, and they decide that both schools should perform together so they can ensure that they all stay open. A bribed judge ends up designating the royal camp as the winner, but the 2 heads of camp decide to overrule the decision and they plan to merge the camp. And also, I think that they're planning to get married. And then it ends with the girls making a band called Rockin' Royals.
For some reason, this is one of the most memorable viewing experiences because we just kind of kept making fun of it. Something about it being a mishmash of Camp Rock and Pitch Perfect. The thing that Julie and I kept coming back to while watching it is that there's all of the royals, but for some reason all of the female royals are given a magic scepter, but the male royals aren't. And when we watched this, we had been taking a class and we had been talking about castration symbols. Like castration symbols in the terms of film, especially in horror films. But we watched Barbie Rockin' Royals and just kept being like, castration symbol. The plot was pretty basic. The characters were like really, really underdeveloped, which was not great. I just didn't really enjoy it. And like, isn't it literally the same plot as Camp Rock 2: The Final Jam?
Number 31. Barbie and her sisters in the Great Puppy Adventure. Barbie and her sisters go to Willow's to stay with their grandma for summer vacation, where they used to spend a lot of time, or maybe they used to live there? When they arrive, they learn that their grandma's dog has recently had puppies, and each of the puppies soon imprints on each of the sisters, who gives them a name. The sisters find their old rooms and all their old photos, but Chelsea's a bit sad because she can't find anything of hers, since she was only a baby the last time they were in Willow. Then they search the attic and find a treasure map! Their grandma says that the founders of Willow buried a treasure for when the city was in a time of need, and the sisters decide to start hunting it down. Barbie meets up with her old friend Christy and goes to Willowfest, the town's carnival, and finds that nearly all the rides have closed down and everything is becoming decrepit. While the sisters are hunting the treasure, some adult men decide to follow these young girls so they can find the treasure themselves. The girls use some national treasure sleuthing and follow clues that eventually lead them to the first willow tree in town, where they try to dig up the treasure but are left empty-handed. And also, the bad guys steal Skipper's backpack with her tablet and all her clues. The girls think hard and determine that they need to stand in the shade by the first willow at 3 o'clock, as some lyrics of the song suggest, and they find a sunbeam cast on the grass. When they dig it up, they find a plaque that needs to be puzzled together, and when they solve it, a tunnel to a giant underground cave is revealed. They travel deep and find an underwater lake, but oh no! The bad men have caught up with them. They end up all getting trapped inside a massive treasure vault because of Joe, one of the guys, who touched some of the treasure. Oh yeah, the puppies have been with them this whole time, and the shy one ends up being brave and ends up saving them. They tie up the bad guys, and they donate the treasure to the city of Willow. Willow is saved, and the girls then take the reward they were given for helping the town and hide it, giving the town a new treasure to hunt down and something to believe in.
This one is pretty mediocre. It's like a mishmash of adventure stories with a penchant for some puppies, which kind of make me squirm. I don't like them. The biggest crime this movie committed was subjecting me more to Barbie and her sisters. It was a fine sort of Indiana Jones National Treasure adventure. The villains were pretty nonsensical. They were very forgettable. But I guess the moral was good. And I suppose I did like the lore building in terms of the Roberts family. I thought that was pretty interesting. The small town was a nice setting, especially when we usually just get Malibu. But I don't like this one.
Number 32. Barbie Spy Squad. Barbie, Renee, and Teresa are gymnasts that are preparing for a big championship competition. Their biggest fan is Renee's Aunt Zoe, who never misses a meet. After they have a bit of a fail, Zoe tells them to meet her for a picnic by the Hollywood sign. They arrive, and a door in the Hollywood sign opens up and leads them to a secret headquarters for a spy organization that is led by Aunt Zoe, who wants to recruit the 3 girls to join. There have been a string of gem robberies that pose a threat, and if all the gems are assembled, a powerful device can shut down all their servers? I don't know. They train with an Agent Dunbar, then are given gear by Laszlo, who has a powerful flirtationship with Teresa. They also get motorcycles and a robot dog named Percy, and are sworn to secrecy. They set off to stop the burglar from further robberies, but she's able to get away with another one. Because of this double failure, they're dismissed from the agency, but are allowed to keep the gear for one more day because Laszlo is down bad for Teresa. They realize that the burglar is actually a fellow gymnast named Patricia, and they try to get a hold of someone from the agency to help them stop her. They get a tracker on her and realize that she's going to the headquarters, and they have the robot dog Percy let them in. They soon learn that Patricia is working for Agent Dunbar, who wants to shut down the agency's controls and put the blame on Aunt Zoe, allowing him to gain power over everything. Patricia ends up helping the girls stop Dunbar after some minion-like robot hijinks, and Dunbar is arrested. They go to their gymnastics championship and they succeed in their pyramid, unlike their failure at the beginning. And they're still spies! Some would say they're totally spies.
I did not expect to like this, but it was a lot of fun. Our three main characters all had like really distinct characterization, which I liked, and it was a really good balance of the three. There's also something like very Men in Black about this, and also very much reminiscent of Totally Spies, but even pulling from those inspirations, it didn't really distract from it. There was a funny little pathetic man, and hey, it didn't pass the reverse Bechdel test. Overall, I liked it, and the animation was pretty great too. Nothing super notable, but I did especially enjoy that ensemble of characters. It was kind of nice having Barbie not be the center of everything, and I think I would have really enjoyed this as a kid.
Number 33, Barbie Starlight Adventure. Barbie, surprisingly, plays Barbie in this one, which is set in an alternate universe where she lives with her father on the planet of Paraden. We learn quickly that Barbie has great tact with animals and cares deeply about the environment. She has levitation powers too. Barbie and her dad soon learn that a message has come in from the king, giving Barbie the opportunity to work for him on a special mission. Her dad drops her off on Opa Ari and she meets the team she'll be working with, including Prince Leo, a star hoverboarder named Sal Lee, and twins Sheena and Karina, who have the ability to manipulate gravity. Barbie briefly embarrasses herself in front of the king and then, after a banquet, embarrasses herself further by encouraging everyone to dance to modern pop music, opposed to the classical music designated by the king, and she gets called out for her transgression. Barbie soon makes friends with Sal Lee, who's a bit standoffish at first. They begin training for their mission, of which Barbie does decently well at, and manages to encourage everyone to work together. The teens are sent out on a trial mission to see if they are ready and told to capture a starlian creature, which they do, but decide to release it as it won't survive in another environment. The king is furious because he needed the creature to help them through magnetic storms they must cross on the official mission, and he fires Barbie on the spot. Barbie's packing to leave when she realizes she can get the starlian to help them without force, by just asking it, and the king allows Barbie back on the mission and makes her team leader. They are able to get through the magnetic field and to the central planet, where they are looking for a way to restore the energy across the universe. The king tries using his technology to realign the stars, but it fails and all the stars in the universe go out. Barbie catches one of the falling stars and hears it singing, and determines all she needs to do is dance to restore the stars. Her dress transforms, of course, and light comes back everywhere and the magnetic storms clear. They return home, Barbie is named a princess, and then music starts and it ends with a dance party.
Honestly, a treat. Barbie's first sci-fi. It's very reminiscent of popular media at the time in the structure. I'm thinking like Guardians of the Galaxy, and something else that I really think it's reminiscent of called Voltron Legendary Defender, but we don't need to talk about that right now. This movie has what Thumbelina thought it had in regards to like the respecting the environment angle, and I did really love how there wasn't really a villain. It didn't have that classic power grab story because I'm getting really tired of that one. The king had made a bad decision, but it wasn't out of malice. It was because he wanted to save his kingdom. As for the reverse Bechdel test, it's a little bit annoying because they specifically gender a robot at the beginning of the movie, and that's what makes it pass. Ugh, like, can we not just have, like, an agender robot? Do we need to gender a robot?
Number 34, Barbie and her sisters in a puppy chase. Barbie and her sisters have flown to a nondescript island so that Chelsea can compete in a dance competition and, naturally, the puppies had to come along too. Chelsea wants to go straight to the hotel so she can continue rehearsing, but Barbie has a surprise in mind. They go to get a rental car, but all that's available is a golf cart, and things start to go wrong. Skipper gets carsick, they lose their map, they can't use GPS. It's a mess. They eventually find the park that Barbie was searching for, and the surprise was the Dancing Horse Festival. While they watch the horse show, the puppies run around and end up inside the horse trailer, and they end up locked there and are driven away. They realize the puppies are gone and try to chase after them, but the golf cart crashes into the trees. They end up camping in the park since it gets dark, and Chelsea still wants to go to the hotel to rehearse. They make plans to hike the next day to get to the campgrounds that they know the horse owners are staying at. It rains, so they end up all sleeping in the golf cart. And the next morning, they end up hiking for a while without a vehicle. Meanwhile, the horse owners find the puppies in their trailer and take care of them until they can be reunited with Barbie and her sisters, who are, meanwhile, ziplining. They find another rental car company, and they're given a camper van. Fun! But it runs out of gas. Thankfully, close to where the horse trailer is. Chelsea is very upset at this point because she doesn't want to miss her competition. Then the puppies surf. The horse trainers say they will bring them to the competition, but then oops, the road is washed out. The girls end up jumping horses across the washed out part of the road, and the horse trainers go the other way around. They get to the competition, but Chelsea is late and they are about to crown the winner. But the puppies do puppy eyes, and they take the trophy away from another girl and they let Chelsea perform. Chelsea's solo dance performance then evolves to include puppies, horses, and her sisters. And the judges give the award to her. And then everyone dances.
This movie sucks balls. I am not joking when I say this is the most unpleasant Barbie watching experience I had. Which is saying something considering I fell down the stairs and injured myself while watching some of these. It's just supremely horrible. The story was dumb, the puppies are ugly, the sisters are annoying, and then the ending is just so stupid. Chelsea won a solo dance competition by having a bunch of people join her. This is even though she showed up late and the award was about to go to a different little girl. Like, I can't figure out what the moral of this is supposed to even be. And to top it all off, we remember, like, the premise of this movie is a puppy chase. I don't know why there's a dance competition. I don't know why we're on an island. I don't know why there's only one character model for anyone who lives on the island. It's a bit tasteless. And then, like, Barbie is bad at everything in this movie. I know I was complaining a bit back about Barbie always being the best, but Barbie was taking L after L. It was, like, so out of character that, like, she continuously let her sisters down only because she made bad decisions. I'm pretty sure this one's a reverse Bechdel fail. I can't tell you anything about representation of anyone. I don't care. It sucked.
Number 35, Barbie Video Game Hero. Forgive me if the plot recap isn't perfect here. I haven't been able to find a recap of the plot in detail online to do a double check, and I don't particularly want to watch this again because I've just spent so much time watching Barbie and I can't do it. So here we go! Barbie is a bona fide gamer, and we start with her playing a game she made over Twitch with some friends. Soon after, Barbie sent a message to beta test a new game, and she ends up getting literally sucked into her iPad into the world of the game. Very Spy Kids 3D game over of them. Once in the world, she is greeted by the in-game tutorial, who tells her that their world is in danger from the emoji virus. The first level Barbie falls into is a racing game, and she ends up making two friends with the NPCs that she's supposed to race against. They band together and get Barbie to beat the level so they can move on. In between levels, there's a sort of liminal space where Barbie is awarded a piece of code. The next level is a sort of combination of Angry Birds and a matching game, and it's confusing as hell. There's so many squirrels. They have to free this girl from a treehouse, and then they're off and running to find the next dimension. But oh, Barbie unlocked a secret level! She goes to the level, and it's another racing game. Just much harder this time and nearly impossible to beat. However, the virus is getting more and more widespread at this point, and it's becoming incredibly dangerous. They're able to beat the level eventually, despite the virus. Then I think they double back to the level. My memory gets a tiny bit murky here. I think it involves Barbie altering the code. Then they make it to the third and best level, Minecraft. Now, it isn't actually Minecraft, but it totally is, and it's so fun. They learn to use the code pieces that Barbie kept winning to create items within the game and use their creativity, and they're able to stave off the virus monster for a while. But then, they have to defeat the virus monster in a game of Just Dance? And I mean actually Just Dance. Like, this is a Just Dance ad spot. They somehow defeat the virus, and they're able to cure it, and the day is saved! Somewhere in there we learn that the virus came about because the in-game tutorial just wanted to create something of his own. The game wraps up, and Barbie is returned to her room.
I was wondering why this movie was so poorly rated when I first started watching it, and then it turned into a Just Dance ad. Overall, it was really silly and fun and had a lot going for it. But then it just became disgusting product placement. It was such a weird shift. Like, it has all those different video game worlds, and a kind of confused understanding of how technology works. But definitely, like, not the worst thing I've seen in terms of, like, knowing how coding is. And you know, it does encourage girls to get into coding, which I think is really cool. Also, there's this bit in the movie about jumping the shark, and it made me laugh so hard.
What? Wow, Barbie really jumped the shark.
Number 36, Barbie Dolphin Magic. Barbie and her sisters are visiting Ken on an island while he's doing an internship in marine biology. They bring the puppies, unfortunately, and they have plans for taking advantage of all the fun they can have on the island. While exploring the reef, they catch glimpses of a mermaid, Isla, and they decide to go get a closer look, but Isla hides. They learn about the myth of gemstone dolphins, and one is seemingly held in the marine biology facility. Barbie tries to free the gemstone dolphin, but they're stopped by Ken's boss, Marlo, who says that gemstone dolphins don't exist, and this one's just really sick. When leaving, Barbie ends up running into Isla, who used her magic to turn her tail into legs. Isla becomes quick friends with Barbie and her family, though Isla doesn't really trust humans. We find out that Marla knows indeed that it is a gemstone dolphin and wants to profit off it. Isla then stays the night, and the next day, Barbie discovers that she's a mermaid. They learn that Marlo is trying to sell the dolphin, and they go into rescue mode. They're able to open the gate, but the other gemstone dolphins joined the trapped one, and the gate shuts again. Now, Marlo has all of them! Isla feels that she put her trust in the wrong people and heads off alone to save her friends. They use some tricks to figure out how to get the dolphins out, and they rush away on a speedboat. Marlo tries to capture Isla instead of the dolphins, but Barbie tricks her into thinking she's the mermaid and gives them all time to escape. Barbie is set free, they say goodbye to Isla, and Barbie and Isla say they'll never give up on each other.
This movie's a little bit... I mean, Barbie refers to Ken as a friend of the family, but Barbie and the mermaid, they're just really good friends, you know? Big one for the girlies. Also, big reverse Bechdel fail.
Number 37, Barbie Princess Adventure. This is the first film made after a several-year hiatus, which I am attributing to several issues within the studio. Mainframe Studios, previously known as Rainmaker Studios, that there was a series of acquisitions and name changes between 2016 and 2020 that lead me to believe that producing Barbie movies was not a priority. It is possible they're prioritizing the Barbie vlogs at this point. Suffice to say, there was a bit of time between the last film and this one. The movie starts with Barbie and her friends making a music video for a song in hopes that it will inspire people. Because Barbie's a vlogger. She submits it to an aggregator for online content, and the videos start to go somewhat viral. Because of this, the Princess of Floravia sees it and realizes that Barbie looks exactly like her. Princess Amelia of Floravia pulls some strings and gets Barbie's school involved in a cultural exchange trip, and Barbie and all her friends are invited. As she's preparing to leave, she hears from the content aggregator saying she will promote her content if Barbie meets her standards. Shady stuff if you ask me. Barbie live streams from the airport, but the aggregator says that it just isn't good enough. Also, Barbie's dog Taffy came along too. Haha. Speaking of Barbie's dog, Taffy chases the princess's rabbit around the castle and leads Barbie to Amelia, where she tells Barbie that she inspires her. Amelia just wants to be able to be herself. Amelia asks Barbie if they can switch places for the week, since they look identical, and they agree to tell no one except for Barbie's friends. Amelia's advisor finds out quickly about the ruse and says they must keep it up until Amelia returns. Meanwhile, Amelia is living it up, exploring around Floravia and getting to know her people. I'm surprised that people haven't noticed that she looks just like the princess. The aggregator continues to pressure Barbie and wants good content. Barbie continues on with the princessly duties, including a moment where she tells a little girl that they shouldn't film their meeting, they should just experience it. Barbie interviews Amelia for her vlog, and the princess says she just wants to be goofy.
I never get to post pictures of me just hanging out, looking goofy.
All throughout, Barbie has been meeting with Johan, a neighboring prince that Amelia is seemingly destined to marry. We learn that Johan wants to take over Floravia instead of Amelia, and he's evil! He kidnaps the real Amelia! They start their search to find her, but the aggregator interrupts Barbie with a proposal of a re-edited video where she makes the princess look bad. Barbie ends the deal and refuses the offer. Barbie ends up getting taken by Johan, but she's able to escape and heads towards the yacht where they're keeping Amelia. Nikki and Teresa save Amelia and Barbie, and they crash the coronation. They get Johan arrested, and Amelia is crowned queen. And then, Amelia decides she's going to start a royal vlog so she can speak directly to her people. They all dance, and Barbie and Amelia appreciate how they've grown since switching places.
Honestly, this seems like a pretty good reboot for the Barbie franchise. Go, vlogger Barbie! I do think this movie was pretty mid, but like affectionately mid. I'm sure that I would have loved this when I was a kid, and the story was fun and interesting enough to keep adult me engaged. It was a little goofy, but in a great way. There were a lot of men in this movie though, and they talked a lot.
Number 38. Barbie and Chelsea, The Lost Birthday. Right off the bat, I do have to express that this is not a good movie, and like some of the other Barbie movies around this time, it simply was not made for me. I am in no way the target demographic, but that being said, I also don't think this is good content for children. It's a bit mind-numbing, and it feels like I'm watching Cocomelon. Maybe I just don't understand kids nowadays. I can tell you with only shaky assuredness that this does not pass the reverse Bechdel test, because I did watch it at 1.5 speed. In short surmise, Barbie and her sisters are on a cruise for Chelsea's 7th birthday. Maybe they're all Nepo babies, jeez. And then they cross the date line, which upsets Chelsea because when she wakes up, her birthday has literally been skipped. It's a lost birthday. A magical parrot tells Chelsea about a magical gem on a magical island, and she literally ziplines to that island from the boat. Then comes a series of Chelsea meeting new animal friends and saving them as they adventure through the jungle in search of the magic gem. Meanwhile, Skipper, Stacy, and Barbie are trying to find Chelsea and roaming through the jungle. Chelsea and her friends end up finding the magic stone, but she gives it to her friend so she can have her family, and then they have a party. I also only just realized that all the animals' names are versions of Barbie and her sister's names. Chelsea wakes up in her tent and it was all a dream, no way! But she finds out the activities director is sabotaging the ship and he gets sent to a lower deck. The new activities director helps Chelsea with her birthday, I think, and they have a cake and they have a dance party. I don't know.
This was a very silly movie with kind of lackluster animation, and it's not for me. I would be like really okay with never thinking about it again. Let's leave it at that.
Number 39, Barbie Big City, Big Dreams. Barbie really wants to be on Broadway, so she applies to and is accepted by a summer program at an art academy in New York. When she gets to her dorm room with the girl she met in the lobby, they realize that they've been assigned to the same room, because they're both named Barbie Robert. They nickname themselves Brooklyn and Malibu in order to distinguish themselves. They become fast friends, and Brooklyn shows Malibu all around New York. We then learn that Brooklyn's childhood best friend turned mega pop star, Emmy, is attending the art academy in disguise because she wants to be a normal student. We then learn the most important part of the plot. There will be an annual Spotlight solo competition that allows the performer to be live streamed in Times Square. Naturally, everybody wants to win. Emmy and Brooklyn rekindle their friendship, and they all meet a guy named Rafa who is a fashion designer. Then, Emmy's controlling father comes to the academy and sabotages the Barbies by claiming that Malibu pushed Brooklyn into an orchestra pit, braining her ankle. This does happen, but it's because Malibu is clumsy, not because she was being mean. Malibu gets kicked out due to Emmy's dad, and Brooklyn tells her they're no longer friends. Rafa shows that he was recording the class when the accident happened, and they realize they were all wrong. Brooklyn flies to California to tell Malibu that she's sorry, and they return only to win the Spotlight solo competition together. They perform a song about friendship, and the movie ends.
I do really love what they've done with Brooklyn and Malibu Barbie, and I'm sure kids really enjoyed this movie, but yeah, it's not for me. It's not bad, it's just not wonderful. Certainly enjoyable, though the music did suck. It was very musical theater, which, if you know me, you know I'm very, very familiar with some musical theater. Be careful with that love. You will do what it takes to survive. Points for Vlogger Barbie, though, because I just love this Vlogger Barbie. I think she's kind of hilarious in concept. But the plot is pretty weak in this, especially when you compare it to, like, the complexity of the first movies. One question, what age is Vlogger Barbie? Because she's in the summer program, and I assumed at first she was, like, college-aged, but I think, like, it's summer, so maybe she's, like, high school. Is she just eternally 16?
Number 40, Barbie Mermaid Power. Brooklyn Barbie and Malibu Barbie, and her sisters, reunite with Malibu's special friend Isla from Dolphin Magic, and are turned into mermaids for most of the remainder of this movie. The villain from Dolphin Magic, Marlo, is still trying to convince people that mermaids are real, and she's determined to prove this so she can receive funding. Our girls are invited to Pacifica, the lamest underwater mermaid empire we have yet to experience, and they meet a bunch of mermaids. I think the goal was for them to partake in these games, but simultaneously also restore the health and well-being of the ocean. And also, each of our main group gets to find what special mermaid power they have, like they can be an air mermaid or a water mermaid, etc. Some of the younger mermaids are kidnapped, and there's emergencies plaguing the empire. Malibu finds Marlo in a submarine, and there's an accident as it collapses, where they end up getting trapped, and somehow Malibu turns Marlo into a mermaid. They get out of the debris, the younger mermaids are saved, and they get rid of trash in the ocean. They find out one of the younger mermaids, Aquaria, is the Power Keeper, which is essentially the Avatar, and she has all the different mermaid powers, and then they channel all their energies into the trash, and it's eradicated, and then they party.
Barbie Mermaid Power is kind of bad. It feels like they took Avatar: The Last Airbender and Barbie and a Mermaid Tale and put them in a blender and shook it a little bit. Well, they blended it, but they also shook it and then kind of dumped it out and swirled it around and tried to figure something out. Nothing in the movie really ever comes together, and it seems like it can't decide whether it wants to be a Barbie and her sisters movie or a Brooklyn and Malibu movie. And Barbie's sisters are just annoying. This also has the opposite problem of the last movie, in that there is a weirdly complicated plot. It's just very inconsistent. There's so many threads happening that it's really hard to latch onto any of them. Luckily, it doesn't pass the reverse Bechdel test, or that would be a pretty big downer. I'm usually like the biggest mermaid supporter in existence, but I can't get behind this one. I did not like it.
Number 41, Barbie Epic Road Trip. Unlike every single Barbie movie that preceded it, Barbie Epic Road Trip is an interactive film on Netflix that relies on the viewer to choose their own adventure and direct how the story will go. It would really be too tedious for me to go through and tell you all about the different options, so if you really want to know, you just need to go watch/play it yourself. What you do need to know about it. It starts with Barbie, and Ken on the beach talking about their upcoming epic road trip, and Malibu is trying to decide if she should stay in Malibu with her crush Ken, or move to New York with her crush Brooklyn. They go on a road trip to test out Skipper's new app that matches shelter dogs to potential owners based on personality, so they can bring the pets to the perfect home. You can work through different endings that basically weigh Barbie's relationship with Ken and her music career with different emphasis.
I think this is probably a really fun experience for kids. Like, I had a pretty fun time playing through it. It's really engaging. I can definitely see the appeal, and I would have loved this when I was younger. The story is actually a pretty good one, and unfortunately, it's kind of relatable to me in this current moment, considering I just graduated college. It started out a little rocky, but I was really glad to find out that the dogs that they were like adopting out were animated, very cute. I was so worried I was going to see some more ugly dogs, but they were cute. In terms of the reverse Bechdel test, this one's really hard. I would say it's a fail, at least with the options that I played through. The one that I played, I'm pretty sure Ken didn't interact with any male characters, but it's difficult to say because there are dozens of different options and endings you can have. Julie and I watched this separately, and she texted me being like, "Oh, do you remember this part?" And I was like, no, I never even encountered that. The characters in this were fairly well formed, but there's also been years of these characters continuously being added to, so it started from a pretty secure place. I also continue to question, did Barbie graduate high school? I don't know, I really should maybe just watch the vlogs.
Number 42, Barbie, Skipper, and the Big Babysitting Adventure. While this is a Barbie movie, it's entirely about Skipper. Barbie leaves at the beginning to go plant trees in the Amazon and only shows up one time via FaceTime and once at the end. In this one, Skipper is running a babysitting business, and suddenly her friends and business partners are out and she gets a bad rating online that destroys her reputation. With all her sisters gone for the summer, she turns to finding a summer job at a local water park. She makes 3 friends along the way who all have edgy TikTok streaks in their hair, and they all want to get jobs too. Much to Skipper's chagrin, her supervisor will be Tammy, Barbie's nemesis. Despite that, she gets hired and makes a good impact on the company. Enough for the owner, Tammy's dad, to award Skipper for her good work. He lets Skipper start her plan to hold a daycare for the younger kids who are too short to ride the water slides, which leads into an ordeal where some of the kids, plus Skipper and her friends, end up stranded in the desert on a traveling arcade bus, and the older girls have to safely get the kids home. They brave the desert, they end up on a weird party plane, and Skipper talks to dolphins to get them home. Which, by the way, is canonically incorrect because Skipper was an air mermaid not 2 movies earlier, so she shouldn't be able to talk to animals. By the end, Tammy, Skipper, and her friends get the kids back in the nick of time, and Tammy stands up to her father saying she has good ideas and can help manage the park. They turn an old stinky area into a polished daycare, small kids have fun at the water park safely, and Skipper feels that she's successfully done her job.
I have no idea as to whether this one passes the reverse Bechdel test or not. Mostly this is because I sat down to finish writing the script, and I found out that I missed 2 Barbie movies that came out within the last year, and I had to watch them. This movie did make me chuckle a few times. It was fairly enjoyable. It made me feel like I was watching the Babysitter's Club, which, you know, it's nice. There were a few bits in it that were really fantastic, namely the Nutcracker sinking.
I tried to scream, but my head was underwater.
It even made me somehow wish that I was working in a water park right now, which I think is a pretty massive achievement. I don't know where this idea is coming from. I can't swim. But this film was really just a continual reinforcement that these Barbie movies, these new ones, are not meant for me. I spent most of the time thinking Skipper was a bad babysitter. I'm an adult and I'm not the target market. But if more movies like this are being made for the Barbie brand, I can't say I'll be too mad. I didn't think this was great, but I think it was good enough. It has some good morals for kids, it's enjoyable, and while I wish it was better because I think kids should be taken seriously, it wasn't horrible. I would also like to include one bit. Something that we didn't pick up on while watching 42 Barbie movies, until the last one, is that Prince Eric from the Nutcracker makes an appearance in nearly all of them. Like, there is a Prince Eric Nutcracker hidden somewhere in almost every single one of the Barbie movies. He's in the background, and the only one I noticed is the one I just showed you.
But my head was underwater.
How did we watch so many of these and not know? There is a comprehensive list explaining all the appearances, and reading through it, I was just perplexed that I was so stupid. Off of this, before I get to the conclusion, I would like to thank the contributors of the Barbie Movie Wiki for preserving so much information about this movie series. This video would have been so difficult to complete without them, so I'm really appreciative. Obviously, I don't know who you are, and you didn't even know I was making this, but I just really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your work. You have been invaluable. Well, we have now discussed every single Barbie movie that Mattel has released over the last 22 years. And what have we learned from it? One of the first things I noticed is that not all of these films are made equally. The earlier films are just better, and I don't think it's just my nostalgia telling me that. Simply, they appear to have had a higher budget. There seems to be a dip in quality during the 2010s, and I believe that that corresponds with when Barbie as a brand started falling off. It's unsurprising because a lack of funding can affect all parts of a production. People need to be paid well in order to produce films, in order to write, in order to act, in order to animate. These people are who make the film happen. What's interesting is 2015 is just after their worst performing year, and they released 3 movies. It makes me wonder if Mattel thought that their best bet was to crank out movies to get dolls sold. Another thing that was hard to ignore with this series is that many of the films kind of have the same plot. It involves an evil person wanting to seize power. And if you think about it, a lot of media centers on this basic premise of a power struggle. But I just find it interesting that it applies so heavily to the Barbie cinematic universe. Media revolving around this power struggle typically involves violence or at least brute force. But Barbie usually wins by being intelligent or brave or using other skills. That isn't to say that Barbie doesn't do action or she doesn't have physical strength, but there's typically a different means to the solution. I don't want to get too deep into theory today, but I'm putting a pin in this subject because I think it's really interesting and needs to be delved into more. So, let's discuss the results of our reverse Bechdel test. According to my evaluations, 19 passed the test, 20 failed, 2 were dubious, and 1 I didn't designate because I was frustrated. These numbers aren't necessarily the most accurate because they depend entirely on my discretion, but it does tell us that in most of the series, the male characters are not presented very thoroughly. When these films do pass the reverse Bechdel test, it usually hinges on a singular conversation. The Kens seem to really only be there to serve a purpose, and to be honest, they seem like accessories. There are a few key movies, especially in the beginning, where the male characters were pretty well developed, but that's not consistent. They're mostly there to be motivation, or the villain, or to marry Barbie at the end. These movies exist in an alternate world where women are the center of attention, and their success and well-being is weighed above all else. This isn't to say that portraying men shallowly is a good thing, but it shows that the people making these Barbie movies wanted to uplift their young audience, which was primarily young girls. In a world where most media is made both by men and for men, or boys, it's nice to see something that so heavily considers the feelings and thoughts and desires of girls. And women needing to beat the standards of men isn't really a focus in this series. Really, only one of the films focuses on gender-based discrimination, and otherwise Barbie is just able to do things. They focus on the amazing things that women can achieve, including defeating their evil mermaid aunt. They created a world where gender isn't the most important thing in determining your skills, abilities, and place in life. Barbie isn't a princess because she's just a girl who happened to be royal. Throughout these movies, Barbie is a princess because she's brave and she's kind and she does what's right. Her qualities are the most important. For a series that started production in the early 2000s, it's so nice to see how wholeheartedly they wanted to inspire young girls. My talk with William Lau made it really clear that the people producing these just really wanted to make something that was empowering and inspired confidence in their audience, while meanwhile not being patronizing. They were working for a well-established brand that wanted to sell dolls, but they were also creating art. There have been numerous directors over the last 20 years, and Barbie as a brand has continued to shift in pretty massive ways. Mattel made drastic changes to the brand since 2014, including expanding the diversity of the dolls and finding new ways to engage with their target demographic. And it seems like the brand has only become more and more successful in the last few years. I said it earlier, but I honestly think that this will be Barbie's best performing year maybe ever. And some key people are going to make a lot of money, so we can't really forget about that. At a bottom line, these movies are pieces of a consumerist agenda that just wants to sell dolls to kids. But there are also hundreds of very talented creators working to make these films something that is entertaining, yet also meaningful for kids to enjoy. And I think that's wonderful. Kids deserve media that's lovingly made, not just a mirage of colorful images and sound blaring to fill their senses. Kids are intelligent and sensitive and should be treated as such, rather than simply occupied, and I firmly believe that these films were made with tact. At least most of them. I mean, you just saw me describe 42 movies. They're not all winners. But most of them were entertaining and heartfelt, and I loved them as a 22-year-old. This has been an unprecedented amount of video for me, so I wish I could go in deeper into analysis and an analytical approach, but it is what it is. Princesses want to have fun, okay? You know, we also learned from these movies that life often ends with a dance party, and you oftentimes have a transformation where you become your true self, you have a new dress, and you can be bought as a doll. I do feel like through this experience, I was able to learn a little bit about myself. These movies did affect me when I was younger in ways that I'm only realizing now. Things I quote, the things that I'm inspired by, the way that I interpret films. I think that a little part of that comes down to Barbie's Mattel series. I guess you could say in some little way, these movies made me who I am.
Open me up and cut me loose. I come with a purse and new shoes. Am I your type? Am I your type? I've been in a pink box so long. I am top shelf, they built me strong. Am I your type? Am I your type? 'Cause I've spent too long dancing all alone, dancing to the same song. I'm no toy for a real boy. If you're a real boy, don't play with me. It just hurts me. I'm bouncing off the walls. No, I'm not your plastic doll.
Wait. Whoa. Did you hear that? I think I'm turning into my true self. Whoa! Huh. That was strange. Anyways, State of Morrigan Barbie. Now available for $19.99 at a retailer near you.